Parliament. It said it would also investigate another complaint of a state-paid employee being made to work as a nanny for Talashe's grandchildren. But it's the donation of vehicles to the ANC Women's League that Talashe allegedly redirected to her children that compounded criticism about her fitness to hold office. Presidency spokesperson Vincent Magwenya.
President Ramaphosa has, in terms of Section 912 of the Constitution, removed Minister Sisisi Talashe from the position of Minister of Social Development.
Talashe is only the second minister after Nebuhle Nkabane to be dismissed from cabinet since the formation of the GNU. Minister for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Sindisiwe Chikunga, will take care of the portfolio until a permanent appointment is made. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News.
The National Prosecuting Authority has welcomed a High Court ruling which sets the scene for the corruption case against former President Jacob Zuma to go ahead. The High Court in Pietermaritzburg ruled that the long-running arms deal trial must proceed without any further delays. The order was handed down after the state applied for the matter to continue to trial despite any pending interlocutory applications. Zuma and Thales face corruption charges linked to the multi-billion-dollar 1999 arms deal. The NPA says the time has come for the allegations against Zuma and Thales to be fully ventilated in court. Spokesperson Kaiser Khanyago.
And we are saying that it will also set a good precedence for the other cases that are coming, because from where we are, we really wanted this trial to continue, and we are happy that now as trial date, as has been said, not only a trial date but also the duration.
Lawyers representing the South African Police Service and the NPA have asked the court to consider the public's interest and victims involved in the Thabo Bester prison escape when considering Nandipa Makodumana's appeal. The disgraced doctor has approached the Court to challenge the lawfulness of her deportation from Tanzania. According to Makodumana, South African authorities flouted the law in how she was brought from Tanzania to South Africa to stand trial. Makodumana was arrested in the East African country while on the run with convict and prison escapee Thabo Bester. Representing the state, Neil Stellenberg has been asked by the Constitutional Court judges what an appropriate remedy would be.
What you obviously need to take into consideration is that the nature of the crime, the nature of the proceedings, and the victims of those proceedings, and the public interest in the fact that they want to see that the people are brought to justice, or at least stand their trial.
Hawks narcotics officer Joseph Sibola has told the Madla Commission of Inquiry he was well within his rights to arrest two SAPS members who had no business being at a drug bust. On the 9th of July in 2021, police confiscated 751 kilograms of cocaine from a truck in Ayrton in the south of Joburg. The circumstances surrounding the bust have been scrutinized at the Madla Commission, with allegations that some police officers were trying to steal that consignment. Tabiso Koba has more.
One of the first SAPS officers on the scene of the drug bust was Crime Analytics Officer Marumo Magane, who was joined shortly by National Intervention Unit Officer Steve Pakula. Both men have testified at the Madla Commission this week and conceded their job descriptions did not entail attending drug busts. Testifying before the Commission today, Hawks Narcotics Officer Joseph Sibola says the two men misrepresented their credentials and had ulterior motives, leading to him arresting them. Sibola says one of the officers loaded the bags of drugs into his buggy without booking them into evidence.
Looking at these bags, none of it has been opened to substantiate your allegation of saying these are drugs. Can't you see that we are putting your life in danger? Let me assume that the same bags that we have loaded are explosives. We were going to be faced with a very serious sin of if those explosives exploded here.
The charges against the two SAPS officers have since been dropped, and they were also cleared of any wrongdoings during an internal SAPS probe. Tabiso Koba, Eyewitness News.
And UK Health Minister Wes Streeting has resigned. Reports suggest this paves the way for a potential leadership challenge against Prime Minister Keir Starmer. The BBC is reporting that in a letter to the Prime Minister, Streeting says he has lost confidence in Starmer's leadership and that it would be dishonourable and unprincipled to remain in the post. Streeting also said that it is now clear that Starmer will not lead the Labour Party into the next election. Gold is trading at $4,703.81 an ounce. The rand is at 16.42 to the dollar, 22.19 to the pound, 19.21 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $106.59 a barrel.
In Nooitgedacht, leaving Deep Sloot, heading towards Krugersdorp, there's an accident scene on the N14 southbound before Beyers-Naudé, causing more than a 30-minute delay all the way from the R511 Winnie Mandela Drive. There's also traffic lights still not working in Bramley at Collet and the M1 North.
In your sport, Manchester City keep title challenge alive with victory over Crystal Palace. Asanathi Ntlabakanye banned for 18 months for doping violation. And the Lions target a historic United Rugby Championship playoff spot.
It's a fine afternoon in Gauteng today. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 21 and 23 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. Veteran ANC member Sisi Tolashe has been fired as the Minister of Social Development.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Visit primemediaplus.com to enter 702 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk. Hosted by the City of Johannesburg. Walk with the people, for the people, for our Josie.
For Joburg, by Joburg, in Joburg.
Bamise bonke.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app, DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Very good afternoon, everyone. It's 8 minutes past 3 on Thursday, the 14th of May. This is 702 Drive with me, John Perlman. Wherever you are listening to us in 702 land, welcome to the show. President Cyril Ramaphosa was in Parliament today. President Cyril Ramaphosa is in Parliament right now, but it took a while before he could actually get a chance to speak.
That the president doesn't respect the constitution of the
Order, honorable members.
Order. That the president...
Honorable members, can you please allow a member on the podium to express himself? Honorable members.
Yeah, today's session was always going to be about more than MPs' questions and the President's answers, which is what was on the Parliamentary order of business. A number of parties, including the MK party and the EFF, suggesting that issues around Phala should be discussed. They then left the House, but it's been an interesting and important day in Parliament, given the background and the context. Lindsay Dentlinger, still watching all of that very closely in the House. She'll join us after 5. Speaking of the President, earlier today, the Presidency announced that Social Development Minister Sisi Tolashe had been fired. Rebecca Davis from Daily Maverick is the journalist who'd been doing a lot of digging into various issues around the social development or former social development minister. I think it's fair to say that what she uncovered played a very big part in what has happened today. Rebecca with us shortly just to look back on this and look forward as well as to how maybe ministers could be held to account before this all happens. That's coming up shortly. The Springboks rugby season is drawing closer, and as always, well, you just need to look back on history to know that the standards of anyone who wants to be involved with the Springboks have been set incredibly high.
Battered, bruised, and soundly beaten in Yokohama. There it is. The gong has sounded. Pollard kicks it into the stands. And there is indeed a cup of gold at the end of the South African reign.
Well, the road to 2019 was long and winding and very, very difficult. The road to 2023 was equally challenging, not as challenging as the tournament would be. Now we're getting ready for yet another season of Springbok rugby. In preparation for that, Rassie Erasmus was announced the participants for the second of what he calls an alignment camp. So what is an alignment camp? I've been intrigued by this because 40 players come along. Many of them will not be playing for the Springboks this year at all, although perhaps they might. We'll talk about that to Matthew Pearce, whose voice you heard there a moment ago, celebrating that fabulous win over England in Japan back in 2019. And as always, we'll finish off the show with some music. With all the people in court this week, some of them prominent and powerful, we thought we would ask you for your favorite song about being in trouble with the law. Yeah, Eric Clapton there, like Bob Marley before him, swearing it was all in self-defense. Your favorite song that refers to brushes with the law, we'll listen to those at about 20 to 6. We're very happy for you to send them now. Means we can dig out your favorite track and make sure we play it. On the markets, the all shares up by 830 points today. A gain of around 0.8%, so fairly healthy. Leading the bulls is Pick n Pay, up 5.1%. Datatech has gained 4.6%. And Trueworths is up by 3.1%. All of the leading losers today connected to fuel in some way. Tungela, the coal company, has lost 3.2%. Sasol down by 2.6%. And We Buy Cars is down 2.1%. No big moves in the oil price, actually. Brent crude is down by 65 cents, currently trading at $104.90. The rand trading at 16 rand 42 against the dollar. That's a 6-cent move in a positive direction. A euro will cost you 19 rand 20. That's a 9-cent improvement for our currency, and 22 rand 17 will get you a pound, a 7-cent gain again for the rand, this time against sterling. Stephen Curtis joins us with all the market news at 4:25. We'll have sport with Tolakele Mganga. You heard her a moment ago. She's back at around 20 minutes to 4. Karabo Chali gives us the latest traffic news in a moment, and Mbali Dlamini back at 3:30 with the latest news headlines. This is 702 Drive. We're live in the place where you live. If it's happening in 702 land, you'll hear it here first. But if there's something we've missed, or a point we might have missed on a story we are covering, well, we need you to call us. 072 702 1702 011 883 0702. We cover as much as we can, but we certainly can't be everywhere. 702 Drive, it's 14 minutes past 3.
702.
Let's walk the talk.
Before we get into the news, though, I have a question for you. Do you have a dog? And when it barks, does it sound anything like this? Okay, so we had the big and the small there. Now, why are we talking about dogs today? Well, today is, and I'm sure you knew this, International Chihuahua Appreciation Day.
Oh.
Now, you probably didn't know that. I didn't know that either until I came across it online. But the question I wanted to ask you is, if you have a dog, what does your choice of dog say about you? Now, it may well be that you have a small dog because you live in a small place. You're, an apartment that doesn't have a lot of room, a house that doesn't have a big garden or whatever. I have no idea why you have chosen the dog you have, but maybe you can tell us on 072 702 1702 and 011 883 0702. Spoiler alert, my choice of dog says absolutely nothing about me except that I don't have a dog. Which sort of reminds me of that Pink Panther scene. Many of you who saw the first Pink Panther thing will know about it, about dogs and is this your dog and does it bite? But later for that, I'm getting off the point. Refuah, you've told us before you have dogs, you have big dogs. And why do you have big dogs?
Good afternoon, John, and to the rest of the 702 family. So I've got 3 dogs, 3 German Rottweilers. I've always had big dogs. I don't remember us having small dogs. So I've had German Shepherds. Actually, a Staffy's a small dog, so it's smallish, medium size.
It's like a sort of it's to dogs what Toyotas are to cars, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. So I had a Staffy, but most of my life,
not the smallest and reliable.
Yeah, reliable, strong, loyal. So I've always had big dogs most of the time, and I think the big dogs are often such big, lovely teddy bears. Always, and with Rottweilers, I think they forget that they're big and heavy. They act like teddy bears, and they always want to cuddle, jump on top of you. They're heavy.
Yes.
And so I think maybe I just have a big, warm personality. Maybe that's why I gravitate towards big dogs. I don't know. I just love big dogs. The bigger, the better.
So, Karabo Charlie, you don't have a dog at the moment. I don't know if you're under any pressure to get one. If you, first of all, do you like dogs? And if you were to get a dog, what would you get?
When I was a kid, growing up, I used to love dogs because they were not my responsibility. I just would run around in the yard with them, play with them. But the cleaning up and picking up the poo, that was not my responsibility. I guess that's why I appreciated them. But I had I've once had a Labrador.
Okay.
And then a golden retriever. They were such calm dogs, very chilled, playful, you know. But now, if I could have a dog, the smaller the better.
Yes.
Like I was even chuckling when you were saying it's a Chihuahua day.
Can I just say, Rafue, we are on YouTube. So
I'm aware of that.
The look you've just given him when he said small dog.
Yeah, the smaller the better.
Please tune it. Just follow us on YouTube, and Rafue will do that again. You get us on YouTube. 702 Drive John Perlman Live. Sorry, you were saying and scowling, yeah?
Whew. I feel like small dogs aren't dogs. They're more like accessories. Because most of the small dogs, I know a small dog has a big heart also. But to me, I always think about these movies when the dog is called Fifi. Fifi doesn't do that. Fifi needs a massage. So for me, let's get a big dog. Let's go big or go home.
Okay, so for me, it's I love my space, and big dogs are just intimidating for me and visitors. Like when I visit you and you've got a big dog, I'll be reluctant to get into your yard. So I don't want visitors to be reluctant to come into my house. So the smaller the better. They're more welcome. So a Chihuahua, like you were saying earlier, it's Chihuahua Day. I would love a Chihuahua, or even...
How would you even know it was there?
Well...
Need to have a tracker. Chihuahua owners, do you like have trackers on your dog? No.
Or even a sausage dog. I wouldn't mind those. Yes. So those are very cute and not intimidating at all.
If you need recommendations, I'm putting my hand up.
100%.
There we go. Okay, so when you go dog shopping, Rafue is going to accompany you. So give us a call and tell us. And by the way, if anyone owns a Chihuahua, I don't think I've ever been in contact with one or even knew someone who did. But your choice of dog, what does it say about you and what your personality extension might represent by way of these four-legged friends? Call us on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. 19 past 3. Let's find out how the traffic is moving and just make sure we let you know of any snags. Karabo Charlie again.
Well, at this stage, John, not looking too bad, looking good across most of Gauteng. However, there's an accident scene. If you're leaving Diepsloot heading towards the Krugersdorp area, there's an accident scene in Nooit Gedacht. This is on the N14 southbound before Beyers Naudé, causing about a 30-minute delay all the way from the R511 Winnie Mandela off-ramp. Traffic lights still not working in Rand Park Ridge at Beyers Naudé and the N1 in North Riding at Malibongo Drive and the N1 South, as well as in Bramley. Traffic lights out of order at Collet and the M1 North. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, it's 20 minutes past 3 right now. Just to tell you what we're going to be doing a little bit later, I actually did promise you this story yesterday. But Transnet ports have been doing really, really well over the last few years. In fact, this is their best annual performance in 15 years. It's of huge significance, I think, for all of us. Yes, you may not be involved in import or export, but if South African fruit, for example, gets to the port and gets where it ought to be going sooner rather than later, if the goods that go into a product that you buy regularly, or perhaps a product that you're involved in the selling of, or maybe you're waiting for shipments through the ports, if all of that is going better, because there was a time when arguably it could not have been going any worse. All this is good. So this is good news. We'll talk to Muhammad Abdul, who is Chief Executive at Transnet National Ports Authority. I'm keen to know what they're doing and why it's going right. That's coming up at 10 minutes past 4.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi, good day, John. My husband has 3 Rhodesian Ridgebacks, most beautiful dogs. Donna, Max, and Farrell. They've got this Denzel Washington walk with his long legs. They are so, so, so beautiful. I don't want to brag. I'm not a dog person, but these dogs are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, happy with those big dogs. Plenty of you phoning in about your dogs and why you've chosen particular breeds. We'll come to that later. It's 22 minutes past 3.
John Perlman
on 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
So as I mentioned earlier, Minister of Social Development Sisisi Tolashe has now been fired by President Cyril Ramaphosa, and this comes at the end of a long string of issues that have brought her very much under clouds of controversy. Rebecca Davis, investigative journalist at Daily Maverick, has done a huge amount of digging into various aspects. Some of them dealt with hiring people who were manifestly unfit for the positions they were hired to fill. And then there was the issue of cars donated to the ANC Women's League that ended up being used and, in fact, sold on in one instance by Minister Tolashe's children. So let's talk to Rebecca Davis then. Rebecca, very good afternoon to you. What do you think, if there was a final straw here for the president, what do you think that final straw was?
My sense, John, thanks for having me, is that it was the scandal involving the appointment of a nanny for her grandchildren on the taxpayer's dime to live and work in Minister Tolashe's private residence in East London, and allegedly, but confirmed basically through bank records, that this same government-paid employee was being made to pay over half her salary every month to Sisisi Tolashe's daughter. The reason I say it's that, John, is that for most of her previous scandals, I feel she had some level of deniability. For the hiring and firing stuff, she blamed everyone but herself, ultimately attributing a lot of blame to her now conveniently retired Director General, Peter Netshipale. When it came to the Chinese SUVs, she could brush it off to some degree as an internal party matter. I think she may have been lured into a false sense of security by the fact that the ANC Women's League Caucus held over the Freedom Day long weekend ended in her apparently seeming to have talked around the members into accepting the issue of the SUVs. So my sense is that it is this final scandal giving pretty clear evidence of the personal misuse of government funds that may have forced the president's hand.
Do you think it was the unbelievable ugliness of that? Because here's a person looking to get an opportunity in the world of work and then gets fundamentally abused in this. Because I would have thought perhaps in an election year, no huge price to pay over the cars, because in a sense it's distant from the lives of the South Africans whose votes they're trying to get. But this gross exploitation of somebody who had absolutely nothing to do with the world of ANC politics maybe appeared as a liability, particularly in this year when they're going out looking for votes.
That's right. I think there was really a sort of moral repugnance to that, one paired also with the irony that it was coming from the head of the Department of Social Development, entrusted with the welfare of the country's most vulnerable, and simultaneously the president of the ANC Women's League, supposed to be a champion for the rights of ordinary women, and this is what she's getting up to. But John, I should also say, before we give the president too much credit, we understand that, particularly with the Phala Phala scandal hanging over his head currently, he simply could not afford to act without some degree of ANC cover, which seems to have been presented to him by the ANC Disciplinary Committee. This is yet to be formally confirmed, but our understanding is that that committee found against her, took it to the NEC, and that is how it went down. And it does appear that the plan to appoint her successor as in a temporary sense has been on the go for at least 3 weeks, I would say, because we learned at the time in late April that the current minister in the presidency for women, Sindisiwe Chikunga, had been called into Luthuli House for a briefing with Fikile Mbalula, which was thought by ANC insiders to be perhaps sounding her out about the possibility of stepping into Tolashe's shoes.
Thank you so much, Rebecca Davis, investigative journalist at Daily Maverick. And these exposés make a difference. I think we're seeing it all over the place. We've seen it today in this particular decision by the presidency, and we've seen it up and down the hearings of the Madlanga Commission as well. Constant references to information and issues uncovered by journalists digging and doing their work. Well done to all of them. 27 minutes past 3.
John is on X.
At John Perlman.
Right, let's go to the courts now. The Constitutional Court is hearing an appeal from Dr. Nandipa Makodumana in regard to what she says was her unlawful deportation from Tanzania. This as authorities move to arrest, detain her and bring back both herself and her co-accused Thabo Bester to South Africa. So why is the Concourt hearing this? What's the issue in front of the judges? Khomotso Modise, EWN reporter, has been keeping an eye on things. Khomotso, very good afternoon to you. What exactly is the matter before the court? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dr. John. Well, at the heart of the matter before the court today is whether the way that South African authorities were able to get Dr. Nandipa Makodumana from Tanzania into South Africa was lawful. And one of the questions that have been asked by one of the justices here in the Concourt, that's Justice Savage, she asks, under what provision of law did South African authorities rely upon in this handover process? The handover process that's been described here is how Tanzanian authorities handed Thabo Bester and Nandipa Makodumana over to South African authorities at the Kilimanjaro airport in Tanzania. And according to the state, that was as a result of an agreement that the two governments or the two states had agreeing to do this deportation process.
Right.
And so the question that's been asked is what law, at least from a South African perspective or even international law, made it okay, and what law was relied upon by South African authorities, John, to have that handover process done. And I must mention that the lawyer who's representing the Home Affairs really struggled in answering that, saying that this was all based on Tanzanian law.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, has Dr. Makodumana Khomotso indicated what she sees as redress? I mean, is she asking to be returned to Tanzania?
Well, what we have currently is a judgment, a dissenting judgment. It's a minority judgment from the Supreme Court that was penned by Justice Makgoka. This was in the Supreme Court matter that was heard last year in May. In that judgment, Makgoka gives two orders. He orders, number one, that what had happened, so the process to have her deported was unlawful, but then he also says that she should be released because of that. And that's exactly what Nandipa Makodumana wants the Constitutional Court to find. She says as a result of this process being unlawful, her deportation being unlawful, and she says because South African authorities flouted the law and did not follow procedure in deporting her back to South Africa, her arrest and her prosecution here in South Africa cannot be seen as lawful. So ultimately, she wants this process to have her released from prison and have her prosecution halted. But I must mention, John, that a question was asked by Justice Nandipa Makodumana to say, is there anything stopping South African authorities from arresting her after she's been found to, have won this case? If she was to win, can South African authorities not arrest her afterwards? And that's what the court needs to establish, whether she can win the proceedings here in the Constitutional Court if her argument is sound in law, but still be arrested for the charges that she faces in the Free State High Court.
Thank you so much. We're going to watch that with a lot of interest as it unfolds. The Constitutional Court is busy, but I suppose they always are. Khomotso Modise, EWN reporter, covering that story. Any updates, we'll hear from her, I'm sure, in the news bulletins. And speaking of which, here's Mbali Dlamini with an update on what's been happening today, starting down in Parliament. I hope you're not going to walk out.
I think I won't. I think I'll stay for the rest
Stay
of
with
the afternoon,
us.
John. Well, the Umkhonto Party and the EFF have walked out of the National Assembly today, saying they are not prepared to listen to a president who is facing impeachment proceedings. President Cyril Ramaphosa is answering questions less than a week since a Constitutional Court ruling on the way Parliament handled an independent panel report investigating the Phala Farm saga. The MKP's chief whip, Mabatho Mokoena Zondi, was first on her feet to raise her objection. The party has written to the Speaker to demand a motion of no confidence be debated against the President.
Today I rise on behalf of the Progressive Caucus and millions of South Africans. We cannot continue today as business as usual while we have a president in front of us who is continuously living under the shadow and facing impeachment processes. We cannot continue to legitimize his presidency.
Honorable member, what's the point of order?
Well, the EFF's chief whip, Nontando Noluchungu, backed up the MKP, saying those who fought for the country's liberation had to be respected.
We therefore cannot sit here and listen to someone who does not respect the Constitution. So I want to register that to you.
Order, honorable members.
While the ATM's Vuyo Zungula also objected to Ramaphosa's presence in the House, saying Speaker Togo Dudiza should address the ruling of the Constitutional Court.
The first thing you should do is to inform South Africans that the president is effectively charged. He is going to be subjected to an impeachment process. It cannot be that as the House is sitting, you do not take into confidence South Africans.
In the courts now, a witness in the trial of alleged Underworld gang boss Nafiz Modak has told the Western Cape High Court he fears testifying because it could put him and his family in danger. The Goodwood prison inmate was set to testify today related to the murder of top cop Charles Kinnear. Modak, who is on trial with 14 others, faces 122 charges, including Kinnear's murder 6 years ago. Carlo Peterson reports.
A Goodwood prison inmate who cannot be named was due to corroborate the testimony of IPA Deputy Provincial Head for the Western Cape, Mario September. September previously told the court he interviewed the inmate at the prison last year, recording him saying the shooter who killed top cop Charles Kinnear was a member of alleged Underworld kingpin Ralph Stanfield's 28th gang. However, the witness today requested not to testify, saying he fears putting himself and his family in harm's way. Presiding Judge Robert Henry reluctantly agreed to temporarily excuse the witness while recalling September to play the recording.
And once again, I must stand down, wait for you. And this is an abuse. And I'm warning you, this is not going to happen again.
The trial continues. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News, Western Cape High Court.
And in Latvia, Prime Minister Ivica Sălina has resigned after a key party in a coalition withdrew its support. The matter is linked to an internal battle over Ukrainian drones that strayed into the Baltic nation. The drones were on an attack mission across the border in Russia. On Sunday, Sălina sacked her defense minister over the affair. She said Latvia's anti-drone systems had not been deployed quickly enough to counter the drone intrusions. Several Russian and Ukrainian drones have crashed in Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia since Russia launched its invasion of the Ukraine in 2022. In your weather, a partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Lows of between 6 and 9 degrees and highs of between 23 and 25.
In Nooit Gedacht, there's an accident scene on the N14 southbound before Beyersnodie, causing about a 30-minute delay all the way from Diepsloot. So avoid that route if you're heading towards Krugersdorp. There's also roadworks causing delays in Onderstepoort. This is in Pretoria. N4 eastbound between Roslyn and Bravery Road.
The top story in EWN. The Umkhonto weSizwe Party and the EFF have walked out of the National Assembly this afternoon, saying they are not prepared to listen to a president who is facing impeachment proceedings.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
Rick Freyland asked, what are you so afraid of with Trump and Elon Musk? It is their power and how they think about people that look like me. That's what I'm afraid of. The history books are full of the atrocities committed against people that look like me by people who look like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, who had immeasurable power. The millions of people who were killed in the Congo by King Leopold of Belgium, the atrocities of Atlantic slave trade. For those that were not the victims of that abuse of power, it is a matter of get on with it, move on.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702. Doing your famous through meetings, in traffic, at the store. Don't let seasonal hay fever get in the way of a better you. Unite against allergies with Demazin once a day, providing 24-hour non-sedating relief from symptoms like a runny nose, sneezing, and itchy red eyes. Demazin gets it done. Speak to your pharmacist today about Demazin once a day.
In business, missed deliveries cost more than money. Go Girl Logistics is South Africa's 100% black female-owned Level 1 Triple BEE powerhouse, delivering secure, time-sensitive transport for parcels, cold chain cargo, and compliance waste. With DG trained drivers, cold chain certification, national reach, and real-time tracking, every load is handled professionally, safely, and on time. Go Girl Logistics. Power beyond cargo. Visit gogirl-logistics.com.
Let's hear from Susan, owner of Leopard Song Manor, why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance.
We were with our previous insurer for 13 years. Switching made me aware of things that we weren't covered for. It was a quick process. I saved a lot of money.
For boutique hotels, catering companies, and all other businesses, get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Sometimes all it takes to reshape the world and deliver better outcomes is a little unconventional thinking. Black Sheep Thinking, powered by Camissa Asset Management.
Healthcare innovation. Millions in India were going blind from treatable cataracts. Surgery existed, but was unaffordable for most. Well, one doctor redesigned eye surgery like an assembly line. Extreme efficiency, cross-subsidized pricing, and scale without compromising quality. This was Dr. Govindappa Venkataswamy, who changed how cataracts were treated in India. It became the largest provider of eye surgeries in the world. Major surgery treated for patients for free or at a very low cost, and the outcomes were equal to the very best Western hospitals.
Black Sheep Thinking, every Tuesday on 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa, powered by Camissa Asset Management. Invest different. Camissa Asset Management is a licensed FSP on 702.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
With Team Refillware on this one. I do like big dogs, and the bigger ones do have a bad reputation for being vicious, but actually they're just big teddy bears. I love her description of small dogs being accessories. I just picture small dogs being in prams and handbags. This is Sam.
How's it, John? Colin from Buffelsdrift, Pretoria. On the subject of dogs, we've got 5, starting from the smallest, a miniature Vorsi, Dachshund. Then we've got a miniature Vorsi Jack Russell Cross, and then we've got a normal Vorsi. Getting a bit bigger, we've got a Pit Bull. Getting a bit bigger, we've got a Great Dane. So I'd love somebody to tell me what that tells about us and our family. Thanks, cheers. Good show as always.
Afternoon, Malume John and team. Well, I have a Jack Russell, which is a privilege because let me tell you, in the township, you don't get to choose. There's only a select few people which get to choose which type of dogs they want. Otherwise, we have these dogs that are called the Toyota Conquests. We don't know the breed, but you find them everywhere in the township. And most people own those dogs because it's free to get one, you know, you don't have to buy it. And yeah, they're just all over. So yeah, the Toyota Conquests are they all over. You can find them at weddings, funerals. Yeah. So that's the story. Same in Alberton.
Good afternoon, Tata John. I hope you're good. So my partner and I, we actually bought a Maltese because we just got tired of people telling us that we need to have another child. Sandela from Boxback.
Good afternoon, John. We shouldn't get carried away and get excited that there's a minister who's been fired. It doesn't happen. She's just waiting to be redeployed. Watch this space. Kabele in Pretoria.
I'm not sure, actually. The redeployment wriggle room is much tighter than it used to be, but yeah, we need to watch that space. 19 minutes to 4.
EWN Sport.
Tola Kele, very good afternoon to you. Some news around rugby players and doping, I believe.
Absolutely, John. And Lions and Springbok prop Asanathi Ntlabakanye has received an 18-month ban from rugby after an anti-doping rule violation. The 27-year-old's ban runs from the 13th of May 2026 and he'll only be able to play again on the 13th of November 2027. That's having tested positive for DHEA, which is a performance-enhancing substance. He must also forfeit any income and awards he received since his first testing positive on the 22nd of May 2025. On the pitch, the men from Joburg say they're ignoring playoff permutations and focusing on one thing, and that's beating Munster in the United Rugby Championship. Fifth place Lions need a win over the Irish side to seal a top 8 place in a first ever playoff appearance, and forwards coach Wessel Roux has shared his thoughts on the straight shootout.
Quality side, and we are prepping as well as focused, and then almost like afterward look at what the log. I think it puts unnecessary pressure to try to do the maths and permutations and try to work out where obviously we wanted to end up in the top 4, but I think that's energy that's almost like wasted energy. So we try to keep focus on the stuff that we can control.
Manchester City comfortably beat Crystal Palace 3-0 to move back within 2 points of Premier League leaders Arsenal and ensure that the title race will continue into the final week of the season. With the FA Cup final on the horizon, Pep Guardiola gambled with his team selection by making 6 changes and leaving out the attacking trio of Erling Haaland, Ryan Cherki and Jeremy Doku. In their absence, Phil Foden set up 2 goals in a man-of-the-match display.
We know against Renfrew today, if we lose, we have nothing to do but to start to bring the hope in the last game, against Aston Villa. But I would say, the next contenders, Bournemouth, look what he's doing this season and at home, or all season, and after Aston Villa. So they are not easy ones, but just focusing that and we'll see what happens. Bournemouth and the last ones.
And Sports Minister Gayton McKenzie has directed the department to arrange alternative accommodation in Accra for Team South Africa. That's after Aidan Smith expressed concerns about the conditions in Ghana. The shot put stars one of 34 South African athletes competing at the 24th African Athletics Senior Championships, where the team are currently residing at the University of Accra. Minister McKenzie has also requested a full report from Athletics South Africa on the conditions experienced by the delegation and the circumstances that gave rise to the complaints. Tola Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Coming up now for 16 minutes to 4, this EWN Traffic is brought to you by GWM, class-leading vehicles that help you navigate your journey. Karabo Charlie.
Yes, John. Well, at this stage in Nooit Gedacht, we're still dealing with that accident scene on the N14 southbound before Beyers Nordia, causing more than a 30-minute delay all the way from Diepsloot in Onderstepoort to Pretoria. Roadworks causing delays. This is on the N4 eastbound as you approach Roslyn Road heading towards Brewery Road. Correct me, which one is it? Bravery or Brewery? We've been having contradictory reports there. Otherwise, if you are in Edenville, there's slow-moving traffic approaching the intersection of the N3 and Motorfontein Road. There's also traffic lights not working in Bramley at Call It and the M1 North. If you come across any other traffic issues, please kindly WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Another fuel hike means more adjustments, like using every loyalty point just to get by.
Okay, use the points first, then this voucher. Wait, I have a coupon on my app for the bread. And then I'll swipe the remaining R2, please.
Don't let the fuel hikes restrict you. Get 5,000 Rand for fuel when you buy any GWM vehicle this month. Visit your nearest dealership or go to gwm.co.za to book a test drive. T's and C's apply. GWM. Go with more.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive Tolekele, we've been talking about dogs and the dogs that people choose and what that choice may say about them, personalities or needs or whatever. First of all, do you have dogs? Did you grow up with dogs? You and dogs, please.
Love dogs. We've always had them since I think I was 2. It's always weird, like when one of them passes away and there's like no chaos in the house because of them, but love them. We consider them siblings. That's how much we love them.
Okay. And big, small?
Combination. So currently we have a new puppy that's like 6 weeks old, and then we have like an older dog who is hating but loving the attention of a young body around the house. In terms of the types of dogs, John, so I'm from the location. We don't know the types of dogs.
Yes.
We just get dogs. The only dog we know.
Toyota Conquest is what one person was calling them.
A police dog.
Medium size.
That's all I can give you. Like, that's the only type of dog I know, a police dog. Everything else, we just take it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got a term for those kind of medium sized, hey? Usually grayish, brown. Yeah. Pointy noses. They're not flat-nosed dogs or round-nosed dogs. Police dogs in driving conquests. We'll figure this out. 13 minutes to 4, your dog story, please. Muhlomi has just sent me a picture. Pop round, Karabochali, when you've got a minute, and you can tell us whether that is the dog. Is that the dog?
Yes, that is the Kasi dog.
Yeah,
that is
that's the one.
That wanders at funerals, weddings, all over, eating the leftovers.
There we go. Okay, thank you, Muhlomi. You have solved all problems with that picture you sent us. Communicate with us, please, on the same number, 072 702 1702. 12 minutes to 4.
John is on X.
At John Perlman.
So there's been lots of rugby played this year already. The Bulls, the Sharks, Stormers, everybody has been in action playing against each other in European competition. But the big excitement, for me at least anyway, of a rugby season is, of course, when the Springboks get into action. We're a way off, although there's some huge fixtures this year. I managed to get a ticket for the game at Ellis Park against England on July 4, and I simply cannot wait for that. But in the build-up, Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus is doing something he's been doing, I think, for a number of years now. He's called up a 40-man squad for what is called an alignment camp. This is the second of these this year. There are 10 uncapped players in the squad. But what exactly happens at an alignment camp? And crucially, what does this say about the style and philosophy of our incredibly successful coaching team? Because that's what they are, very much a team. Matthew Pearce, rugby commentator, barely needs introduction. He has been behind the mic for so many absolutely memorable Springbok games, and I would imagine some that he'd rather forget because that's the nature of rugby and being a commentator. Matthew, very good afternoon to you, and thanks for giving us your time on 702 Drive. I understand the alignment camp, there's not a lot of actual playing rugby. There's other stuff going on. What exactly? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, John. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, you're quite right. There's not a lot of rugby that goes on. There is some fitness testing, but it is mainly, as the name would suggest, an opportunity to align around various things, including playing strategy without necessarily implementing that on the field. This camp is taking place next week, but remember that a number of these players are still going to be involved in the URC playoff matches less than 2 weeks after this camp. So on-field action is severely restricted if they do any at all.
Right.
There's generally some fitness testing that does go on just to establish where certain players are at. But it's also an opportunity, as we're seeing in the naming of this alignment camp squad, to introduce those who have shown the ability to be selected perhaps in the future, to get them involved inside the Springbok culture and environments, so that when they are ultimately selected, nothing comes as too much of a big surprise, and that they feel that they are part of the family, so to speak. So we've seen a number of players in the past who have only attended one alignment camp or possibly two.
Right.
And they still remain firmly on the radar. But I do see these camps as an opportunity to bring certain players who've caught the eye during recent weeks and months into the Springbok environment to get them used to what might lie ahead of them.
It's a really interesting idea, and it's been done for, I think, a while now. I mean, has it paid dividends? You have regular conversations, whether you're traveling or the box or at home, and you have an opportunity to chat to leadership in the coaching camp. I mean, do they give examples of, this young player came in, maybe a bit reserved or whatever, and we did this and it worked?
I think the more valuable feedback, John, is from the players themselves.
Okay.
I've had a number of conversations with players who have gone on to become Springboks, who found their first alignment camp absolutely invaluable, so that they weren't afraid to speak out, to express an opinion, to offer some tactical insight. Whereas had they come in fresh, never having been in that environment, and they were brought into a squad a week or two prior to a test match, there's that propensity for them not to feel particularly at home or comfortable when they come into the squad. But the fact that they've been exposed to how the Springbok environment operates. For example, these camps, they would have the management telling all the team about the logistics for the entire year, so that when they travel to Baltimore for the fourth test against New Zealand, this is when they're going to travel. It's how they're going to travel. Then they're going to move on to Australia and not come back to South Africa. It's just getting everybody in sync with what the logistics and the planning behind the Springbok season involves.
I'm just looking at some of the names, and obviously Kurtley Arendts, Edwil van der Merwe, Grant Williams amongst the backs, for example. People who are well established. Handré Pollard, of course, is a veteran with significant years of playing in the green and gold for him. And then there are very young players. I mean, there's Riley Norton, who's just captained the under-20 team to win in their equivalent of the Rugby Championship. There's Hashim Peed, who won World Under-20, also playing with Riley Norton. Is there any conscious that you know of kind of putting together younger players with older players, either in the rooms they share or anything like that? Or do they just kind of let it be and see what happens?
No, that is exactly it. It's allowing the likes of a Riley Norton. Look at Seketelo Siyaya, who is just doing some wonderful things at the Sharks, but still under 20. Yaka Williams, who did so well last year with the under 20s. It is very much about giving these players an opportunity to be in the same room, to acknowledge that they are on the cusp of potentially becoming Springboks, if not this year, maybe beyond. But it's also, John, looking way beyond 2027 Rugby World Cup.
Wow.
To throw a stat at you, which I love, the last couple of international seasons since winning the Rugby World Cup in France, the Springboks have used 50 players or more in both 2024 and 2025, and won 12 out of 14 test matches in 1 year and 11 out of 13 in another, retained their number one ranking in World Rugby, but using over 50 players a year. Now, if you think that some players are going to get capped for the first time this year, which I strongly suspect they might, you could be in a situation where going into a World Cup next year, you've had 57 or possibly 58 different players capped in Test rugby for South Africa in the 3 years subsequent to defending their title in France. And of those 57 or 58, you can only take 33. to a Rugby World Cup. So by definition, you're going to have 15 or 16 capped Springboks who don't make the World Cup squad, but who need to be prepared for a call-up in the event of an injury. And looking beyond that, you've suddenly got a group of players when there will be, no doubt, an exodus following next year's Rugby World Cup of very experienced players. You've now got this cohort of players who've all been exposed to test rugby on the field, but more broadly the Springbok environment, so that going from 27 to 31, you're not starting from scratch. You've given this younger cohort of players a real and meaningful exposure to what Springbok rugby really is.
Matthew, how personal does it get? And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I mean, obviously, these are players and their ability to function as individuals, but as members of a team and a squad is crucial. But they're also just like the rest of us humans. They're falling in and out of love. They've got families that are stable or not. Does the coaching team use this as an opportunity to also get to know individuals, so that if somebody's not quite acting the way they expect them to act, they've got a couple of reference points to maybe ask some decent questions?
Certainly, but they'll also be monitoring individuals' response within a group environment.
Okay.
So Jacques Nienaber used to talk about this a lot. He said, we pick the right people, not necessarily the best people. And I think if you look at the pipeline of talent available to South African rugby with our school system and Varsity Cup and the URC franchises and the under-23 competition, there are a large number of players who have the requisite skill to play a position.
Mm-hmm.
So what is going to differentiate somebody who's perhaps equal on skill level? It's their ability to put their personal ambition aside for the good of the collective, to do the extras in preparing their teammates to face a particular opponent, to put disappointment to one side, to show the kind of work ethic that is expected in the environment. You pick up these things quite quickly,
right,
and quite easily around attitude. And bear in mind as well, John, none of the players who are plying their trade outside of South Africa at the moment, so those based in Japan and in the English Premiership and so on, none of those players are included in this particular alignment camp. They will have another online alignment camp before ultimately the squad is selected for those first test matches that come up in July against England, Scotland and Wales, and of course the game against the Barbarians. And that game against the Barbarians happens on the same day as the URC final. So there could be a number of players not available to play for the Springboks that day against the Barbarians. So it's an opportunity to get everyone into an environment, seniors, juniors, those who have built their test caps in the last couple of years since the World Cup, and to see how they interact and what the best combination ultimately is going to look like.
Thank you so much. Fascinating stuff with Matthew Pearce. I mean, often when we reflect on the success of the Springboks, there are people who say, well, can't we learn from the way they go about things and see if we can, do better in the areas where we work and the areas of our country that we're trying to fix, change and grow. So I don't know, did you hear anything in that alignment camp that Matthew Pearce detailed so well for us that makes you think, maybe we should try that, or perhaps you're already doing that or something similar? Give us a call either way on 072 702 1702.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener.
The Midday Report at its heart is a current affairs show, but it really is a show about everything you need to know about and everything you didn't know you needed to know about. Our listener is sharp, plugged in, curious, has developed opinions, but is still open to learning new things. My favorite part is how witty, sharp, and funny our listener is. What we cover every day is breaking news, current affairs, politics, the courts, global developments, science, education, popular culture, culture, sports, books, and of course, good things too. I like to think of it as a lunchbox with a little bit of everything. What I love about 702 Land is that it is full of energy. There's always something happening, a developing story to follow. But it's not parochial. The 702 family cares about what is happening in the world around them and how we plug into that.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener. Weekdays from 12 to 1 p.m.
If your plumber was becoming too expensive, you'd switch, right? So why pay more for car insurance? Switching to Outsurance saved 27-year-old Lynn a mind-blowing 638 Rand on her 2025 Haval Jolian. Get a quote now, and if Outsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Do it now. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. Licensed insurer and FSP, TCs and information online.
Evolution doesn't wait. Introducing the Changan Uni S. Unexpected, unmistakable, uncompromising. Engineered to a higher standard, unlike anything in its class. Unsurprising really from China's oldest automaker. Trusted by 13 million drivers worldwide. Visit changanmotors.co.za for more. The Changan Uni S.
Changan, driven to evolve. Each year, between 800 and 1,000 children in South Africa are diagnosed with cancer, leukemia being one of the most common. And for many, a stem cell donor is a possible cure. At DKMS Africa, we help finding matching stem cell donors for patients with blood disorders and cancers. So, this World Blood Cancer Month, register at dkmsafrica.org and help a patient find their match.
This is EWN.
Opposition parties welcome the firing of CCC Dolashe, and India introduces fuel-saving measures, including work-from-home days. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Zamini. Political parties have welcomed President Cyril Ramaphosa's decision to fire Social Development Minister CCC Dolashe. Dolashe was removed from cabinet today after facing scrutiny over alleged ethics breaches, questionable appointments and controversial vehicle donations. President Ramaphosa has since appointed Minister in the Presidency for Women, Sindisiwe Chikunga, as the acting Social Development Minister. Mongezi Koko reports.
Action SA says the decision is a clear vindication of its efforts to expose what it describes as corruption at the highest levels of government. The party maintains that Dolashe should still face further accountability over the allegations against her. Action SA MP Dereline James.
All monies must be paid back with those cooked CVs.
The Democratic Alliance has also welcomed the firing, saying Dolashe's position in cabinet had become untenable. DA leader Jordan Hill-Lewis.
Mrs. Dolashe's position in the cabinet was untenable, and the president has done the right thing.
Meanwhile, Razum Zanzi says the removal is a necessary step toward restoring public trust. MP Magashule Gana.
We are waiting to see who's going to be appointed as a full-time Minister of Social Development.
Parties within and outside the GNU say the move sends a strong message about ethics, accountability and public trust in government. Mongezi Koko, Eyewitness News.
The NPA says the time has come for the allegations against former President Jacob Zuma and French arms company Thales to be tested in court. This follows a landmark ruling in the High Court in Pietermaritzburg in favor of the state's application, clearing the way for the trial to proceed without further legal delays. Zuma and Thales face corruption charges related to the multi-billion-dollar 1999 arms deal. Nkosikwana Malingamnisi reports.
Former President and MK party leader Jacob Zuma has for years maintained that he wants his day in court, and now, after extensive legal battles, the case is set to finally proceed to trial. Delivering judgment today, Judge Nkosinathi Chili said the matter had been delayed for far too long and required the court's intervention. After a short adjournment, the state and defense agreed on trial dates, which were then made an order of the court.
The matter is adjourned to the 1st of February next year, 2027, for trial, and it is set to run for 2 terms. It is directed that Mr. Zuma and a representative of Talis to appear in court.
The NPA has welcomed the ruling, saying it marks a critical step towards having the case fully ventilated in court. Or see Kona Malingamnisi, Eyewitness News in KwaZulu-Natal.
Lawyers representing the South African Police Service and the NPA have asked the court to consider the public's interest and victims involved in the Thabo Bester prison escape case when considering Nandipa Makodumana's appeal. The disgraced doctor has approached the Court to challenge the lawfulness of her deportation from Tanzania. According to Makodumana, South African authorities flouted the law in how she was brought to South Africa to stand trial. Makodumana was arrested in the East African country while on the run with convict and prison escapee Thabo Bester. Representing the state, Neil Stellenberg has been asked by the Constitutional Court judges today what an appropriate remedy would be.
What you obviously need to take into consideration is that the nature of the crime, the nature of the proceedings, and the victims of those proceedings, and the public interest in the fact that they want to see that the people are brought to justice, or at least stand their trial.
In Parliament, President Cyril Ramaphosa says those who say black economic empowerment is an impediment to growing the economy should hang their heads in shame. He was once again pressed on the issue by the DA during question time in the National Assembly this afternoon. Ramaphosa says the criticism against Triple BEE has become a slogan and a fallacy. Lindsay Dentlinger reports.
In response to a question on the recent South Africa Investment Conference, President Cyril Ramaphosa says a lot is being done to raise what he says are unacceptable levels of unemployment. He says the private sector has also not invested as much into the economy as it should. Asked by the DA's Toby Chance where the BEE was the problem, Ramaphosa once again dismissed the suggestion.
It is false, it is lies, and it is just a slogan. It has become a slogan.
Ramaphosa says a comparison of the mining sector before and after apartheid would show this notion to be false.
If people come with this fallacy that BEE is an impediment to the growth of the economy, go to the mining industry and see what this democratic government has done.
Ramaphosa says the government continues to hold the view that its BEE policies are opening up the space for black people to participate in all sectors of the economy. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
And in India, New Delhi has announced fuel-saving measures, including work-from-home days for government employees. The debate around work from home once again returned to the spotlight after Prime Minister Narendra Modi appealed to citizens to reduce fuel consumption in the wake of the war in the Middle East. India imports nearly 85% of its crude oil requirements, making fuel conservation a major economic concern. According to reports, government officers will have 2 work-from-home days a week for those able to work remotely. India is one of the few countries that has not increased fuel prices for domestic consumers or rationed its supplies. Gold is trading at $4,703.69 an ounce. The rand is at 16.43 to the dollar, 22.17 to the pound, 19.23 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $106.58 a barrel.
Nooit gedachte accident scene on the N14 southbound before Beyers Naudé, causing more than a 30-minute delay all the way from Diepsloot. Basonia, traffic sluggish on Klipspruit Valley Drive. This is between the N12 and Belair's Drive, and in Edenville expect some delays on the R24 westbound between Edenville Road and the Kilulis interchange.
In your sport, Mamelodi Sundowns switched their attention to the first leg of the CAF Champions League final. Arne Slot guarantees that he'll still be manager of Liverpool next season, and Sarah Taylor appointed England men's test fielding coach.
In your weather, a partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Johannesburg drops to overnight lows of 8 degrees, peaking at 24. Pretoria 9 and 25, and Vereniging a low of 6 and a high of 23 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. Political parties have welcomed President Cyril Ramaphosa's decision to fire Social Development Minister Sisisi Dolashe.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
We're calling on Joburg to walk the inner city with us. In 702 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk. Babize bonke. Enter now on primemediaplus.com.
702.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
On 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, good to have you with us. It's 10 minutes past 4. Lots of interesting things in the news bulletin there with Mbali Dlamini. Your thoughts on the firing of Social Development Minister Sisisi Tolashe. Some people saying, well, maybe a little bit too late. Others saying better late than never. Pick a cliche or avoid them both entirely and just give us your views on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. President having a kind of a robust week, actually, you could say. Firing a minister, telling us earlier in the week that he was not going to resign and that he was taking the report produced for Parliament around the impeachment issues he's facing. He was going to take that on judicial review. So, your thoughts on all of that in the mix, if you like. Again, that number 072 702 1702. Coming up in a moment, we're going to be stepping back from the hurly-burly of politics and take a closer look at something very crucial to our economy, specifically news that came out earlier this week that South Africa's ports are actually doing the best that they have done in 15 years. Now, in fairness, we covered this story when the ports were rated amongst the worst in the world, and entrepreneurs and industrialists and agribusiness people from every sector of the economy were saying, we can't go on like this. We are actually not able to get goods in and out of the country. Seems like things are turning, and in recognition of that turn, we'll have a chat with Muhammad Abdul, who's Chief Executive at Transnet National Ports Authority, as we do prepare for that, and he'll be with us in a moment. Perhaps if you're importing or exporting, you may want to share your views, or perhaps you've got a question to answer. That's coming up shortly. A little bit later in the show, another big issue, again, around our economy, but invariably these things are about more than just economics. Possibilities of a new approach to get Starlink into the country. I had a number of questions. Is Starlink the only offering of its kind? In other words, are there other versions of what Starlink offers? Are they the best? Are they the cheapest? We'll put that question to Duncan McLeod from Tech Central, because I think that is a crucial part of our perspective on this conversation. After 5, as President Cyril Ramaphosa has been answering questions in Parliament today, Lindsay Dentlinger with her take on a very interesting afternoon in the House. 13 minutes past 4, we asked you about your choice of dogs, and does your choice of dogs say anything about who you are in some way, shape or form? We've had a couple of responses as well to the firing of former Minister Tolashe. So let's hear your thoughts.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
That John and the team, I'm trying to understand what is the difference between Malema's situation and Ramaphosa's situation. Why are we supposed to listen to Malema while he's going through what he's going through, and he doesn't have the decency to give other people the same respect? I'm not too sure what is Malema doing.
John, it started again now with the EFF and MKPs leaving while the president's supposed to address the House. Can you imagine if you voted for EFF or MKP and the members just leave like that without even trying to ask for supplementary questions and whatnot? It's waste of our taxpayers' money. We fly these guys to go to Cape Town to sit in Parliament and debate, and they think they can just 5 minutes go to Cape Town and leave. That's nonsense.
Hi, John, Ralph here in Boksburg. I was just wondering if you could ask maybe one of your experts if the South African Constitution has any jurisdiction in Tanzania. because I think while she was there, whether the Tanzanian authorities handed her over to South African authorities, if we don't have any jurisdiction there, it's neither here or there. Shivers in Boxburg.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's I'm not putting myself forward as an expert, and lawyers, please step up to the plate, or people who study the Constitution closely. The issue, as I understand it, first of all, I think I can say with great confidence, our Constitution has no jurisdiction in Tanzania, which is its own country governed by its own laws and its own constitutional framework. I would imagine this is before the Constitutional Court to look if there was any way in which the South African authorities who went to Tanzania exceeded their own constitutional mandate. I don't understand why else it would be before the Constitutional Court. So that would be my take on that. But anyone who knows something different or something more useful or just something more, please do give us a call on 011 883 0702 072 7021 702, 16 minutes past 4.
EWN Traffic.
Nooit gedacht is nooit a place you would like to be at the moment, it would seem. Karabo Charlie, what's happening there?
Yeah, there's an accident scene if you're heading towards Krugersdorp, leaving Diepsloot in the Nooit gedacht area, N14 southbound, before Beyersnodie, causing more than an hour delay. That's all the way from the R511 Winnie Mandela Drive. Pasonia, south of Joburg, traffic sluggish on Kliprivier Drive between the N12 and Belaise, while in Edenville, also expect some delays. R24 westbound heading towards Bedford View between Edenville Road and the Gilulis interchange. In Tshwane, Menlyn, traffic pressure on the N1 northbound from Rigel Avenue all the way to the Proof Plus interchange due to those roadworks in the Linwood area. And in Onderstepoort, also roadworks causing heavy delays on the N4 eastbound between Roslyn and Bravery Road. If you come across any other traffic issues, kindly WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
You hear that? That's the sound of business execution finally visible. No more chasing people and reports, no more disconnected systems, no more guessing if our business is performing or not. iStratGo connects strategy, people, performance, and day-to-day work into one clear software platform, so leaders can see what's working, what's not, and where to focus. Because when execution is visible, everything runs better. Book a demo on istratgo.com. istratgo.com.
Imagine a holiday where the only thing on the to-do list is enjoy yourself. With Norwegian Cruise Line, you can sail to over 400 destinations worldwide effortlessly. Visit ncl.com for the best deals or contact your travel agent today. Norwegian Cruise Line. It's different out here. T's and C's apply.
You can become a victim of a legal problem. Wrongful arrest, assault, uncontested divorce, rental disputes, maintenance matters, or labor problems. It can happen to you. Clientele Legal provides tough professional lawyers for an affordable monthly premium. Our legal team is standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. Join today. SMS Legal to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
There are moments that don't look significant at first until everything changes because of them. Shift Happens with Richard Sutton, a new podcast exploring real stories of challenge, doubt, and turning points. Because growth doesn't arrive when everything is clear. It arrives when nothing is. Coming soon on primemediaplus.com, the Prime Media Plus app, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Powered by First Light, therapeutics for the modern mind.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
19 minutes past 4. Well, a story that really jumped out for me yesterday was this one on the Business Live site. Kabelo Kumalo, deputy editor at Business Day, wrote about how Transnet ports are operating better than they have in 15 years. We've had a number of interviews in the past bemoaning the state of South African ports. There was an international ranking system that put our ports way, way, way down amongst the worst in the world. Seems like they're turning around, though. and to talk about this turnaround and crucially what it might mean for our hopes and plans for better economic growth. We welcome to 702 Drive Muhammad Abdul, who's Chief Executive at Transnet National Ports Authority. Mr. Abdul, welcome, and I think we ought to say well done to you and your team. Clearly you're moving in the right direction. Has this been a whole lot of small wins, or have there been some significant turning points and maybe big changes that you've made? Welcome.
Good afternoon to you, John, and to your listeners as well. And thank you for having us this afternoon on your show. I think we're quite excited, and you are correct. We're certainly quite pleased with what the teams have been able to deliver, given the more recent underperformance, as you also pointed out there. It is a combination of both, I think, in terms of just the effort that's been undertaken. Clearly, it was sparked off back in 2022 when the Transnet board, or the newly elected Transnet board at the time, launched the 18-month recovery plan, trying to get us back onto the footing that we've obviously started to address based on the underperformance that we started to see about in the last 5-6 years. Yeah.
So, I mean, for example, I know that when we've had difficulties at our ports, exporters and probably importers as well have looked for alternatives. There's been growth in the Namibian port. There's been growth in Maputo as well. Is there business there that you guys are now really intent on trying to win back?
Correctly so. I think the difficulty that we've experienced then contributed to our competitors starting to pick up some of the volumes that we couldn't handle in the country. And this is why what we're now starting to see, and the turnaround efforts that have actually been deployed at Transnet across the board, not just at the ports, are now starting to put South Africa back onto the map and allows us to be able to then claw back some of that demand that we lost to our neighboring ports.
A lot of it has been, according to what I've read from Cabello, due to lots of cars coming in from China and India, lots of cars going out from our manufacturers heading for Europe and, I don't know, possibly Australia or the United States. But cars playing a big part. How sustainable is that business, do you think? Because the auto industry's got some challenges of its own.
Correctly reported. We've actually had a great year in terms of motor vehicle imports, as you pointed, particularly from the Indian markets and the Chinese markets. In fact, John, that which we've handled last year, about 900,000 cars across our key, attributed mainly through the imports that have come through, has been the best performance we've ever seen on the automotive industry through our ports. When you ask a question about sustainability, I think it's something that we're watching very carefully, but we also believe that the market dynamics are changing. Where based on affordability, people are moving away from so-called luxury vehicles into this middle market. And if you look at that middle market, they're offering you affordable cars with luxury offerings.
So I want to get back to your core business, obviously the running of the ports. To what extent is what we're seeing cyclical, and to what extent does this reflect structural improvements, firstly, that you can build on, but secondly, you can, confidently say, yeah, we had a good year and we're going to have another good 1, 2, 3, or 4?
So the nature of our business, if you just look at what the ports actually handle, it varies around the different handling modes from containers, dry bulk, break bulk, liquid bulk, automotive. And each of those sectors have different cyclical indicators. So they are definitely cyclical factors. And like I said, in this past year, we've had a great year in terms of the automotive industry. Mind you, we've also picked up quite nicely in terms of dry bulk as well as containers. It wasn't such a great year in terms of liquid bulk and break bulk volume. So it just depends on where you are in terms of the different cycles from the different industries. From a structural perspective, there's been small wins for the ports, based on what we've actually been focusing on, but at least from the Port Authority. But if you look at our terminal operators, they've been investing heavily in terms of the equipment, and you're starting to see the benefits of that coming through, evident in the containers, as I mentioned, the growth that you see there. But the ports are also a part of the logistics chain. The improvements that we started to see on rail have actually contributed significantly as well to our performance, especially on the dry bulk side. All of our main export commodities from coal, iron ore, manganese, are all in positive territory. Yeah, so it's looking up, and we're not out of the woods yet, but John, and that's what gives me the optimism. I think we're now starting to get back, like you say, 15 years ago performance. So there's and we know that there's demand has grown. So there's definitely potential for continued growth and performance in the system.
I realize, Mr. Abdul, you can't do much about the wind in Cape Town, which has played havoc, I think, at one crucial point in the fruit exporting cycle. But you are going to expand the port of Durban. What's the timeline on that, and what's the scale of the expansion you're looking at?
So let me start off with Cape Town. You're very correct, and that externality is just beyond our control. But I must tell you that together with our stakeholders, the Weather Bureau, Western Cape government, all coming to the party to understand that this is beyond just the Transnet or the TNPA's ability to manage. We've actually been very proactive in terms of managing that. So what we found it helps is that once we know we are going to be experiencing inclement weather conditions, we already plan to then divert cargoes to our other ports, and that's the benefit of having a complementary port system. Albeit it does come at an additional cost for transportation, but it's beyond our control. But at the same time, we are still looking to expand the port of Cape Town as well, the container terminal there specifically, from 1 million TEUs to 1.4 million TEUs, and that's certainly on the cards. But again, to the question that you asked on the port of Durban, here again, we are focusing on the growth factor, growing the business here. And what we have in the pipeline is the container terminal, where we wanting to make sure that we deepen the berths there to 16.5 chart datum, and that will help us to bring on bigger vessels and grow the volume through the port of Durban as well.
Thank you so much. Well, it's really good and interesting news. Muhammad Abdul is Chief Executive at Transnet National Ports Authority, and it's good to hear about a really crucial institution like Transnet actually making that kind of improvement, as I mentioned before, but the line or the opportunity is still open. Very, very keen to hear from you if you're in imports and exports, whether you're noticing any improvement in the performance of Transnet in South Africa's ports. Call us on that, 011-883-0702 and 072-702-1702, 27 minutes past 4.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
Right, let's get the very latest business news coming up with Stephen Curtis in a moment.
EWN Business.
Stephen, good afternoon. Not a dramatically better day, but a better one, it would seem.
Yeah, I think so, John. Good afternoon. So oil is slightly lower, and that's always a big factor for us. The rand slightly stronger. Bear in mind, Kevin Walsh takes over as chair of the U.S. Federal Reserve tomorrow, and that is going to be interesting to just watch how the dollar reacts. The comments that he makes about interest rates in the United States are going to be vitally important. The JSE All Share flat, down 0.03% to 117,350. Financials up 1.5%, industrials up 0.18%, resources down 1.5%. So platinum prices particularly down 4.5% on the day. So that's having quite a big impact on them. But a good day for retailers, and we've had a bit of a bad run for retailers lately, John. But Pick and Pay are up 7%. We see ShopRite up 2.86%. Truworths are up 2.37%. So Truworths started moving up again yesterday. ShopRite, we know, of course, all about that story. And then Pick and Pay have had a rough time, but they seem to be up very strongly. Datatech also up 4% on the day, and Vodacom up 2%, while Truworths also actually up 2.37 at the moment. ASP Isotopes, they're down 7%. Your platinum miners, Implats, Valterra, Tungela, they're all down by around 4%. Karoo is down 3.5%. Now, they had a pretty good update. They said their CarTrack subscribers were up by 16% in the fourth quarter to the end of February. Its subscription revenue overall was up by 18%. Their earnings per share up by 8%. And also today, the Equitas Properties Fund reporting its distribution per share up by 5%. They say their property valuations have increased in South Africa because of strong market fundamentals. And while platinum prices are down significantly today, the platinum and chrome producer Tharisa is saying its earnings per share are likely to be up by over 500%. and that's the 6 months to the end of March. Higher platinum and minerals prices having a big impact on them. And Mpumi Mpofu, who I'm sure you've spoken to, John, the CEO at Airports Company SA, she'll be stepping down at the end of June. I think her term actually comes to an end. Charles Shalowa will take over as acting CEO. He's currently the head of Capital Infrastructure Asset Management at AXA. In the US, so certainly we're seeing a day that's really sort of starting a little bit iffy. So shares opening slightly higher, Nvidia's shares up. Investors also just looking at economic data and then the situation in the US, in China, where the US President Donald Trump, along with the Nvidia CEO, actually have been meeting with Chinese officials there. The Dow Jones is up 0.58, the Nasdaq is up 0.39, the S&P 500 is up 0.42 at the moment. The gold price $4,684.40, platinum $2,062.20, Brent crude $105.31, the rand to the dollar 16.43, to the euro 19.22, to the British pound 22.20. Stephen Krutis, EWN Business.
Thanks, Stephen. Let's get the very latest eyewitness news now. Lots of focus on Parliament at the moment. Bali Dlamini is starting us off in Cape Town, I think.
That's correct, John. A very good afternoon. The ANC is confident that any attempt to impeach President Cyril Ramaphosa will fail. Its top officials briefed the party's Parliamentary Caucus on the outcomes of a special NEC meeting on the Phala Court judgment. The party says it expects support from its own MPs and GNU partners when a vote is being held. The briefing comes after parties in Parliament agreed on the makeup of the Section 89 inquiry that will investigate the president. Babalondenze reports.
Parliament has approved the formation of a 31-member impeachment committee, with the ANC to get the most representation with 9 members and the DA 5. ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula at the caucus meeting has communicated the party's position to the party's 159 MPs and to get the process started. Mbalula said they talk to GNU members all the time, and removing President Cyril Ramaphosa won't come easy.
So that if somebody comes with a motion of no confidence, you need 50% plus 1. And then when you want to remove the president, you need 2/3 majority. Nobody will remove the president here without us if they come even with impeachment. So they put it as though it's something easy.
The party's national official will hold another press briefing at Luthuli House in Johannesburg tomorrow, where the special NEC's decision will be communicated. Babalondenze, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
6 people have now been arrested since the beginning of May as the Department of Home Affairs intensifies its crackdown on fraud and corruption within its systems. The latest breakthroughs include the arrest of a naturalized foreign national in Johannesburg and a senior immigration officer in Mpumalanga. The foreign national was arrested at the Harrison Home Affairs office over allegations of fraudulently registering 5 foreign national children on the National Population Register. Zikoko reports.
The department says the suspect allegedly falsely claimed paternity of the children using a naturalized South African identity document. In a separate operation at the White River Home Affairs office in Mpumalanga, a senior immigration officer was arrested following an entrapment operation. The official is accused of demanding money from a Mozambican national before returning their identity and travel documents. Home Affairs says both these arrests were made through joint operations between its counter-corruption unit and the Hawks. Minister Leon Schreiber.
Every crooked official and complicit member of the public must know that it is now only a matter of time until their turn arrives.
Schreiber says the department is ramping up its cleanup campaign as it moves to root out corruption from immigration and civic services. Monge Zikoko, Eyewitness News.
And UK Health Minister Wes Streeting has resigned. Reports suggest this paves the way for a potential leadership challenge against Prime Minister Keir Starmer. The BBC is reporting that in a letter to the Prime Minister, Streeting says he's lost confidence in Starmer's leadership and that it would be dishonourable and unprincipled to remain in the position. Streeting also says that it's now clear that Starmer will not lead the Labour Party into the next election. In your weather, a partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, lows of between 6 and 9 degrees and highs of between 23 and 25.
Accident scene in Nooit Gedacht. This is on the N14 southbound before Beyersnodie, still causing about a 30-minute delay from Diepsloot, so avoid the N14 if you're heading towards Krugersdorp. In Basonia, traffic sluggish on Kliprivier Drive between the N12 and Balaise Drive, and in Edenvale heading towards Bedfordview. Expect some delays. R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Gilulis interchange.
A top story in EWN, the ANC is confident that any attempt to impeach President Cyril Ramaphosa will fail.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
Rick Grayling asked, what are you so afraid of with Trump and Elon Musk? It is their power and how they think about people that look like me. That's what I'm afraid of. The history books are full of the atrocities committed against people that look like me by people who look like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, who had immeasurable power. The millions of people who were killed in the Congo by King Leopold of Belgium, the atrocities of Atlantic slave trade. For those that were not the victims of that abuse of power, it is a matter of get on with it, move on.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
Mzansi, the excitement is building. The 130th running of the Hollywood Bets Durban July takes place on Saturday, 4 July. This year's theme, Country Allure, draws from the richness of our land. A celebration of heritage, freedom and style, inspired by our beautiful countryside. It's more than a race. It's where champions are made, stories are written, and greatness is unleashed. World-class horse racing, bold fashion, music, culture, and a day of endless excitement at Hollywood Bets Greyville Racecourse. Get your tickets now at Ticket Pro and release your glamour at the Hollywood Bets Durban July, Africa's greatest horse racing and social event.
Switching to Outsurance Business Insurance was a quick process. I saved a lot of money.
Outsurance Business Insurance clients know that it pays to switch. And did you know you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium when you switch? For boutique hotels, catering companies, and all other businesses. Get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
For over 4 decades, Exaro and Eskom have powered South Africa together. Now, that partnership grows stronger. On Friday, catch the Clement Manyatela Show live from the official opening of Exaro's Mine 1 expansion project in Kriel, Mpumalanga. The milestone marks a major investment into a long-term coal supply to Eskom's Madla power station and continued energy generation for millions of people. Don't miss the conversations shaping SA's energy future. That's the Clement Manyatela Show, live from Matla Coal Mine on Friday with Exaro, powering progress across Africa and beyond on 702.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hey John, Leslie here. Unfortunately don't have a dog at the moment because I'm living in an apartment. However, I have always had boxers. The reason is that they're incredibly funny. They bounce, they bend, they talk all the time. They have the most expressive faces. Oh my goodness, if they think they've been wronged, the mournful look is something to behold. It guilt trips you for ages. And they're just funny, lovely, loyal, amazing, bouncy companions.
So the so-called township dog, aka Deo the Conquest of Townships, is actually a breed called the Africanus. I've read that a couple of weeks ago on an SPCA post. And the police dog that everyone refers to is the German Shepherd. We also used to call them apartheid dogs because they were used by the apartheid police, when they were doing raids, etc. They were used by those policemen when they were busy with raids, and they used to use them to control crowds at demonstrations and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Hi, John. It is here in Randburg. The term for stray dogs in my language, which is Zulu, is umgodoi, which is a dog equivalent of ipara. So, yeah, that's my dog story.
So thank you for those. I mean, on the Canis Africanus, there's actually an Africanus Society of Southern Africa that is dedicated to the indigenous dogs of our part of the African continent. It's called a dog land race rather than a dog species. And I've got to the bit where it says, what is the difference between a land race and a species? And I haven't read it yet. So let me just see. As is typical with land races, there are several regional variations. Yeah. Okay, so very, very interesting. Canis Africanus. Yeah, we are starting to delve more deeply into the history and specifics of this particular dog. We'll see how much we can cover. If you are actually a dog breeder of these kind of dogs, give us a call. You may be able to shed some light. 20 minutes to 5.
EWN Sport.
Right, the very latest from the world of sport. Tola Kele, good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, John. And Mamelodi Sundowns will be looking to go one better this time around when they take part in the CAF Champions League final against AS FAR. The Brazilians was runner-up last season after Pyramids completed a fairy tale run to win their maiden continental title. And with the first leg taking place at Loftus-Versfeld Stadium on Sunday, Nuno Santos has discussed the importance of taking a healthy advantage to Morocco.
It's very important. We are playing home in front of our supporters. Obviously, we want to count with their support as well. During the entire game, they are very important for us. And we know that, obviously, playing home, it's much better than playing away. So we want to make the best result possible, then to go in the second leg of the Champions League and finish the job.
Mohamed Salah could return for Liverpool in their clash against Aston Villa tomorrow after recovering from a hamstring injury that he suffered in the 3-1 win over Crystal Palace last month. At the same time, manager Arne Slot says he has every reason to believe he'll remain in charge of the club next season. He guided the Reds to the league title in his first season, but has received criticism for the team's performances and results this campaign.
I don't think I'm deciding that alone on myself, but I have every reason to believe I'm the Liverpool manager next season. First of all, I'm contracted to this club. And second of all, from all the talks we are having, that is my take on it. But as you said, if you don't have the best season, especially if you compare it with last season, if you compare it with other season, maybe you have a different debate. But if you compare it with last season, this has definitely not been a great season. And then it's also normal that criticism comes.
Southampton have taken down all information relating to ticket sales about the Championship playoff final on May 23rd against Hull City, as speculation mounts that they'll be sanctioned for spying. An extra time win over Middlesbrough on Tuesday secured them a ticket to Wembley, but the clash was overshadowed by accusations they had spied on Borough's training sessions ahead of the first leg. Cases of spying in the Championship were practically unheard of until 2019. That's when Leeds United boss Marcelo Bielsa admitted he had sent a member of staff to spy on every team they played during that campaign. And former England wicketkeeper Sarah Taylor will become the first female coach to work with the men's senior team after being named fielding coach for the next month's 3-test series against New Zealand. She won the T20 and 50 over World Cups with England in 2009 and made 226 appearances across all formats before retiring from international cricket in 2019. Taylor has had coaching stints with the England Lions and has been appointed on a short-term basis in place of Carl Hopkins, who's working with IPL side Mumbai Indians. Tola Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Back to the roads we go. Back to Karabo Charlie we go to find out what's going wrong in Vasonia.
Yeah, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic in the Pasonia area. That's coming off the N12, coming from Lynn Meyer heading towards Alberton. That is on Kliprefir Drive between the N12 and Belair's Drive. While in Edenvale, expect some delays traveling towards Bedfordview R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Kilulis interchange. In Nooit Gedacht, some good news. That accident seen on the N14 southbound before Beyers-Naudé has been cleared and traffic should be free-flowing shortly. However, in the city of Tshwane mainland, traffic pressure N1 North from Rigel Avenue all the way to the Proof Plus interchange. This is due to roadworks in the Linwood area on Derstepwood. Also, roadworks causing delays on the N4 eastbound between Roslyn and Bravery Road. And in Irene, slow-moving traffic approaching the intersection of Nelmapius Drive and Main Road. For the latest traffic updates, you can also follow us on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Now, a couple of days ago, I noted how the number of people watching us on YouTube shot up when Tolakele Mganga stepped into the studio. So I'm benchmarking it now. I've got a number. If you are not already watching us on YouTube, 702 Drive, John Perlman live. That'll get you in. Yep, there we go. We got the spike again. No, Tolakele, listen, you are a major asset. Don't hide in a corner, and you can't because you're on YouTube. Tolakele.
Thank you, John.
No, but seriously, let's have another quick. No, it's plateauing. Maybe you might have to. Karabo, you're going to have to. We need to talk outfits, you and me. See if we can add a little bump of our own. So, I'm always interested in school sports for various reasons. I think it's a crucial part of sports development, and there's nothing nicer than tracking a young star from, grade 6, grade 7, grade 8 and seeing them emerge as an elite athlete. I was prompted to think about this with a piece on News 24 about Menlo Park Hoërskool. And they've always been known. I mean, I've known this not even as a close follower of schools' athletics, but they have always been the school. And this year again, they have turned out to be the number one school. And congratulations to them. You can read about them on News 24 and other platforms. They're making ripples not just here, but some of their athletes in international competition as well. But what it got me thinking about was competition and rivalry between schools. When you went to school, was that like a big thing? Yes, you played, whether it was football, rugby, hockey, netball, whatever it was, but then there was always the school that you wanted to beat, that you always saw as the game of the year. And I'm just wondering, Tolakele, was that part of your school sports life, whether you were playing or not, but somewhere on the calendar there was that fixture against, and that was the game that you look forward to the most?
So I went to Germiston High, and technically our rivals were Dinwiddie High, but I played tennis, and we always considered our rivals in tennis to be Alberton High, because they kind of had better facilities. Even we didn't play our tennis matches on Germiston High grounds. We actually had to go to the Alberton Tennis Club.
Okay.
So it was quite an achievement for us when either one of us won, either in the singles or in the doubles, because it was like, yeah, even though we're this little school that doesn't really have these great resources, we managed to beat this team that has like proper coaching and all these great players that are doing really well. So that for us was like our biggest rivalry. If any one of us beat Alberton High learners, we were happy.
And was it just fun and competition, or if you saw them in the mall, you would pretend you hadn't seen them?
John, why would we be fighting people in the mall? No, for us, it was literally on court, because the great thing, because not a lot of people played tennis when I was in high school. So after you were done with your singles match, everybody sat together under the tree, ate the oranges, drank everybody's juice. And then at 6 o'clock, we were like, okay, bye, see you next time.
Yeah, and there was no social media then, so no way of making this more important than it was. Did rivalries in sport with other schools, was that a big part of your teenage years?
Most definitely, John. I went to CBC Boksburg, and they were very big with sports, particularly rugby. And our biggest rivals were St. Benedict's, but the scariest one, like we knew in the fixture the next game is Jeppy Boys. Oh boy. They were so intimidating, particularly when we were playing at their home grounds. And then on a Saturday morning, you'll have the whole school there in their uniform, and the war cry, all you see is black and white. And they'll just intimidate you, and already you'd have lost. Just from them introducing you into their home grounds. They were very intimidating. And I see it's still a big thing in JP Boys.
Yeah.
The rugby culture there is hectic.
Yeah. So great. Okay, let's have your stories, please, of school rivalries, and that's the extent to which that was part of your school life. And did you enjoy that? Give us a call on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. Tolakele, seriously now, before you leave, we literally doubled. Doubled our YouTube.
From
pressure.
From 130 to 241.
Yeah.
That's more than double.
Please, my cash app is.
There we go.
So from now on, you must even read your sports bulletin in studio.
You must.
Please.
No. Yeah. Come and sit in my seat. I'll do sport. 702 Drive, 11 minutes to 5. Please keep watching us on YouTube. It's a lot of fun to know that you are there. And remember that you can always post on YouTube the way you can use our other platforms. There is a chat facility there. And it's great to know that you're with us. 702 Drive, 10 to 5.
John Perlman
On 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
So there's a lot of, back and forth going on in regard to Starlink and whether that particular service can be brought to South Africa and become part of our tech landscape. The relevant minister, Minister Solly Malatsi, has put forward a proposal that would make certain adjustments to BBBEE rules. ICASA said, nope, we don't fancy this plan at all. And so we're stuck in that. But something occurred to me, because one of the debates or elements of the debate is people saying, well, the real benefit of all of this would not be for Starlink and its owner, Elon Musk, who, it's fair to say has a fair few other business irons in the fire. But the real benefit would be extending access to the world of online for disadvantaged South Africans, which made me think, is Starlink unique? Is it the best of breed? Is it the best priced option? Or in fact, are there other routes to go? Because some of the argument that if we don't do this with Starlink, all these people's disadvantage will continue and probably deepen. And I'm wondering if that's true or whether there are other options. So let's talk to somebody who would know. Duncan McLeod is editor and founder of Tech Central. You can find them at techcentral.co.za. Duncan, welcome and thanks very much for giving us your time. How do we understand the Starlink offering? Unique, exceptionally good, well priced? What's the best way to look at them?
Good afternoon, John. So Starlink has launched a constellation of what are called low Earth orbit satellites. These are satellites that sit in not that far off the planet's surface, and he's launched thousands of them that circle the planet. And there's a race going on at the moment between Musk and who owns Starlink through SpaceX, and they are currently the leading player in this space. And various other players, most notably in the US, Jeff Bezos, who is leading Amazon Leo, which is also a low Earth orbit broadband offering. He's behind Musk probably by a year or two, but chasing hard. The Europeans are even talking about potentially putting up low Earth orbit satellites now to de-risk their reliance on American systems. And the Chinese are planning to put up a system called Space Sail. So there's a lot of competition in the space, but there is no doubt that Starlink and SpaceX are very much the leaders in the space at the moment.
So does that leadership position, obviously there would be track record, there would be reliability, perhaps they're furthest up the innovation curve. Does that have any bearing on pricing? Or are the others not sufficiently in the space to know what they charge?
It's early days to know how the pricing is going to end up working for these various services, but certainly the Starlink service is quite aggressively priced relative to what you'd pay for a fiber line into your house or a large cap mobile fixed wireless data bundle, for example. There's talk in telecom circles that at some point in the future that these space-based services could displace a lot of the terrestrial services that we use today, and maybe they don't need to deploy base stations in remote areas because people will be able to connect directly to the Starlink and other networks from their phones. So there's a lot of innovation, a lot of disruption going on. It's not clear how it's all going to pan out at the end of the day because, of course, the mobile operators are also working with the likes of Starlink and Amazon, etc., to use their low Earth orbit satellite infrastructure to connect their base stations in rural areas and then connect people in that way because it's obviously a lot cheaper to connect up to a satellite than to dig a fiber line all the way to a base station in the remote Northern Cape. So, there's cost benefits for the mobile operators as well, but these satellite operators in future could, as the technology advances, also become competitors to the traditional mobile terrestrial telecommunications providers. So it's quite a fascinating space, and it's developing at a rapid pace.
It's very interesting what you've just raised, Duncan. I mean, about mobile operators, yes, being in competition with low Earth orbital satellite network providers, if I haven't mangled that too badly. Do you happen to know, are there conversations going on? Obviously this would be very informal and perhaps even on the down low, but South African mobile operators, at the very least, considering life with Starlink or an equivalent.
Yes. No, very much so. And in fact, some of our operators, I think it's, I stand to be corrected, but I think Vodacom has an agreement with SpaceX and Starlink already.
Okay.
They've signed a memorandum of understanding. MTN may have done the same, I'm not sure, but as the SpaceX Starlink representatives are active in this market. They're here, they're talking to our telecommunications operators and internet service providers, and they're getting ready to launch. They want that license. They see South Africa as an important market, and they want to launch services here.
I want to ask you then, if we can go back to the kind of point at which I kicked us off, Duncan, where I said that, part of the conversation is about, well, this fills a massive need that nobody else either is filling or is capable of filling. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, give us a sense of either by way of geography or number of people, the extent to which South Africans are underserved by our current array of comms services, and whether this will make the difference that certainly Starlink advocates are suggesting it will.
I think that in the South African context, we actually have quite a well-developed national telecommunications infrastructure. It could be better, particularly in the more outlying parts of the country, but certainly our cities and towns are pretty well served now by the mobile operators, and increasingly by fiber to the home and fiber to the business providers. There's been a lot of investment since the industry was effectively deregulated about 20 years ago now through a court ruling. And after that date, Telkom lost its monopoly over the provision of infrastructure, and so we've seen a proliferation of companies from Vumatel to Octatel and many others that now offer home broadband fiber services. So the market has become very competitive, but there are still gaps in that infrastructure. You can go to parts of the country. I've been to parts of the Drakensberg, for example, large parts of the Northern Cape, where there is no signal, and there is no alternative except to use some sort of satellite-based solution. And in fact, with the storms that went through the Cape in the last few days, I think Starlink or Amazon Leo or any of these services would have actually proved very useful for towns that were cut off from the world, where there was no electricity for days on end and internet services were down. I think having access to the sort of service could benefit a lot of people. But I think this whole debate is actually coming down to an ideological battle that's going on inside the Government of National Unity at the moment between the DA and the ANC over the future of BEE. And I think that's what this is about, and Musk knows that's what this is about, and enjoys the fact that he's inserted himself into the middle of all of it. And I think that's the crux, that's the nub of what's actually happening here. And so we're having a big national debate about this and flogging each other over it.
Right.
But in the meantime, the people who could actually benefit from these services, such as rural schools, such as people in storm-damaged parts of the country, farmers, et cetera, the tourism industry, are not getting to benefit from it because the politicians are squabbling.
Duncan McLeod, thank you. Editor at Tech Central. You can follow him on techcentral.co.za. Tanya throws this out and says, Zimbabwe has Starlink. It's incredible! ! There's much better internet connectivity there than in SA. Tanya, bandwidth, speed, cost, all of those things, if you want to just elaborate on much better and incredible, I'd love another note from you in that regard. 702 Drive.
It's that time of the year. Sore throats, congestion, wet and dry coughs, pain and fever. For trusted relief for you and your family, ask your pharmacist to recommend a winter survival pack from the Adcock Ingram OTC range. With products like Medikil A, Expigen, Corenza Paracy, Adconapamol, Dilinct Junior and more, we have you covered this winter. Remember, Adcock Ingram OTC, sponsors of Brave.
In the world of finance, manufacturing and mining, automating business processes is a crucial factor in stimulating an organization's growth and bottom line. Zoe Projects and Consulting, a specialized process engineering and automation firm, offers comprehensive data and business systems analysis to optimize your company's processes, to save time, reduce costs, and better efficiency. Go to zoeprojects.co.za and get in touch with Zoe Projects and Consulting today.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Is the airline breaking even, or are you still losing money?
The business fundamentals are strong and solid, and in that sense, in the long run, you're going to see a sustainably profitable airline.
So for the moment, you're not making money?
Now, for the moment, we are focused on generating cash and preserving cash.
Machela Sashibe, the CEO at SAA.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Curtis is brought to you by ABSA Business Banking, featuring the AgriTrends 2026 Autumn Edition. In agriculture, smart moves need smart insights. Get the latest AgriTrends report at absaagritrends.co.za. ABSA is a registered FSP.
This is EWN.
Ramaphosa says he does not need to provide reasons for firing Tolashe, and work from home back on the cards for workers in India. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. President Cyril Ramaphosa says he is not required to provide reasons for dismissing Sisisi Tolashe from his cabinet. The presidency announced Tolashe had been fired as the Social Development Minister barely an hour before Ramaphosa appeared in the National Assembly for question time today. She had been facing a barrage of accusations of maladministration in her office, as well as dodging donor declarations to Parliament. Lindsay Dentlinger reports.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says he asked former Minister Sisisi Tolashe to furnish him with a report on the allegations raised against her. He says he followed that up with an in-person discussion for her to present her side of the story.
Now, having considered all these submissions by the Minister and mindful of the conduct expected of members of the Executive, I have decided to remove the Minister.
Pressed by the Freedom Front Plus's Philip van Staden to share his reasons for Tolashe's dismissal, Ramaphosa had this to say.
The President is never required to disclose the reasons why they appoint or disappoint, in other words, remove any member of the Executive. And I intend to stick by that convention and practice.
The DA's Nazli Sharif has implored Ramaphosa to take the same action against suspended Police Minister Senzo Mchunu. But Ramaphosa has reiterated that he's waiting for the outcome of the Madla Commission of Inquiry. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
The Constitutional Court is unconvinced by reasons provided by South African authorities for two delegations required in Tanzania for the deportation of disgraced doctor Nandipa Makodumana. Makodumana has escalated a quest for freedom to the Apex Court. She is challenging the legality of her deportation from Tanzania, where she was arrested while on the run with convicted murderer and rapist Thabo Bester in April 2023. Khomoto Modise reports.
The question of why South Africa needed to send two delegations to Arusha to escort Thabo Bester and Nandipa Makodumana has been a recurring theme in the Constitutional Court today. Makodumana's lawyers have argued that her deportation was in fact an extradition in disguise and thus unlawful. Justice Stephen Majid has questioned the state's lawyer Neil Stillenberg on this.
Well, it seems to me that what had happened here was that SAPS went there to arrest. This is my impression of all of this. And when it turned out that the Tanzanian government is expecting an extradition papers. People then turn around and say, well, this is a deportation. And it's actually a disguised extradition. And SAPS was complicit to it. That is what it looks like to me on the papers.
The court must now establish whether Makodumana's deportation was lawful and if she can still be prosecuted in South Africa. Khomzo Modise, Eyewitness News at the Constitutional Court.
Hawks narcotics officer Joseph Sebola has told the Madla Commission he was well within his rights to arrest 2 SAPS members who had no business being at a drug bust. On the 9th of July in 2021, police confiscated 751 kilograms of cocaine from a truck in Ayrton in the south of Joburg. The circumstances surrounding the bust have been scrutinized at the Madla Commission, with allegations that some police officers were trying to steal that consignment. Tabiso Koba has more.
One of the first SAPS officers on the scene of the drug bust was Crime Analytics Officer Marumu Makhane, who was joined shortly by National Intervention Unit Officer Steve Pakula. Both men have testified at the Madla Commission this week and conceded their job descriptions did not entail attending drug busts. Testifying before the Commission today, Hawks Narcotics Officer Joseph Sebola says the 2 men misrepresented their credentials and had ulterior motives, leading to him arresting them. Sebola says one of the officers loaded the bags of drugs into his buggy without booking them into evidence.
Looking at these bags, none of it has been opened to substantiate your allegation of saying these are drugs. Can't you see that we are putting your life in danger? Let me assume that the same bags that we have loaded are explosives. We were going to be faced with a very serious sin of if those explosives exploded here.
The charges against the 2 SAPS officers have since been dropped, and they were also cleared of any wrongdoings during an internal SAPS probe. Tabiso Koba, Eyewitness News.
And in New Delhi, the capital of India has announced fuel-saving measures, including work-from-home days for government employees. The debate around work from home once again returned to the spotlight after Prime Minister Narendra Modi appealed to citizens to reduce fuel consumption in the wake of the Middle East war. India imports nearly 85% of its crude oil requirements, making fuel conservation a major economic concern. According to reports, government officers will have to work from home for 2 days in a week for those able to work remotely. India is one of the few countries that has not increased fuel prices for domestic consumers or rationed its supplies. Gold is trading at $4,689.28 an ounce. The rand is at 16.84 to the dollar, 22.20 to the pound, 19.23 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $106.60 a barrel.
Driving through the Joburg CBD heading towards Boysens, bumper-to-bumper traffic M1 south from Killarney Bends to the Crown Interchange, while in Boysens, in Basonia, there's traffic. Traffic is a bit sluggish on Kliprefir Drive between the N12 and Belez, and in Edenville heading towards Bedford View, expect some delays. R24 westbound between Edenville Road and the Gilulis Interchange.
In your sports, Mamelodi Sundowns feeling the heat ahead of the CAF Champions League final against AS FAR. Yannick Sinner sets Masters 1000 record to advance to the Italian Open final, and Australia to make America's Cup return.
In your weather, a partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Johannesburg drops to overnight lows of 8 degrees, peaking at 24. Pretoria 9 and 25. And Vereeniging, a low of 6 and a high of 23 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. President Cyril Ramaphosa says he is not required to provide reasons for dismissing Sisisi Dolashe from his cabinet.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Joburg is more than just a city. It's an energy that connects us all.
That's what makes this one so special.
In 702, Josie My Josie Walk the Talk, hosted by the City of Johannesburg. Enter now on primemediaplus.com.
702.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
on 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, it's 9 minutes past 5. Good to have you with us on the show. Coming up, in the next half an hour or so. Rather lively question and answer session with the President Cyril Ramaphosa down in Parliament. In the beginning, a whole lot of questions were asked by the MK Party and the EFF. I don't know if one would call them questions. They were saying that there were issues around Phala that ought to be on the agenda. Speaker Togo Didiza stood her ground. Those two parties then walked out, but there was interesting content as well in the questions asked and the answers given. We'll look back on a busy afternoon down in Parliament with, of course, all the impeachment issues very much front and center. I was going to say in the background. I'm not sure that fits at all, but a low-hanging cloud over everything. Lindsay Dentlinger will be giving us an update on that. And then turning to a former president, the Pietermaritzburg High Court, it would seem, drawing an absolute line now under any kind of appeal opportunities for former President Jacob Zuma and the French arms company Thales. This in regard to that arms deal trial that, I think it's fair to say, has been knocking around for a while, but it's actually not yet begun. We now have a date, February 2027. Does that, though, undermine future efforts of other people who find themselves in the dock to use what some people have described as lawfare, where they bring in all sorts of appeals and go to other courts and so on as a way of delaying the actual running of the case? We'll put that question and some others to Mbegazeli Benjamin, joining us from the organization Judges Matter. We've been asking you about fierce and bitter school rivalries, not necessarily bitter, but fierce. Let's rather stay with that word. Fierce rivalries from your school days, particularly in the area of sport. A couple of you have got some memories to share. And I was asking questions about Starlink. Is it the only option for delivering the kind of services that it delivers? I had a very interesting chat with Duncan McLeod from Tech Central. You can pick that up if you missed it on primemediaplus.com, the website for all of our stations and all the material that comes out through the day. And some of you have got some views on Starlink. We'll share those as well. 7:02 Drive, it's 11 minutes past 5.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hey John, Mpumelelo here. I'm from a school called the General Smarts High School. School rivalries were big. I mean, when it comes to athletics, the one school we used to love beating was Riverside High School. And then when we play rugby, because there are tiers, just like in any other league, there are tiers in rugby schools. And with us, we always fought to actually get into the higher tiers. And yeah, Hoërskoolvereniging and stuff. We used to really want to go beat them. But in athletics, the African schools, they really did the things. And another thing that is not mentioned is the fact that us being a traditionally black school at the time, our parents would never be able to attend, whereas African schools, the parents were always present. So yes, we'd lose the battle before we even get to the field of play. And that thing should be changed.
Afternoon, John, Tolakele, and I think Araba's in today, and the rest of the team. In terms of that fixture we used to look forward to in high school, so I went to school in Midrand, but I used to play football, and the one team we used to look forward to playing was a school called Waterstone. Like, I swear, those guys used to play like Barcelona, under Pep Guardiola. And, the days we used to play them, like at tournaments, other teams used to cheer for us, because we used to draw with them quite a bit. We had a good team. But Waterstone, man, geez, they were like prime Barcelona. Not too sure if they're still as good, but yeah.
Yeah, great memories actually of school competition. I'm certainly in my last years of school, played in school teams that we were really terrible. So we were not anyone's rival. Nobody quite stooped to our level. Story perhaps for another day to talk about when you're in a team and you really are no hopers. In fact, we had incredible fun. Coming up later in the show, last 20 minutes or so, we're going to play some music. We thought that given how many court cases we've been covering this week and how many powerful and prominent people are actually finding themselves with facing some legal difficulties, we thought we'd ask you this. Your favorite song about someone or groups of people who find themselves on the wrong side of the law, like this song perhaps.
I shot the sheriff, but I swear it was in self-defense. It was I who shot the sheriff, and they say it is a capital offense.
And of course, Bob Marley and all those who followed behind him singing that song, they forgot the deputy. So if you've got a song in a similar vein, 072 702 1702 and 011 883 0702. It's 5:15.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS the word out to 45142 now, and you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Delays in Menlyn if you're going through that part of Pretoria or heading there. Listen up, Karabo Charlie has the details.
Yeah, that's if you're heading towards the Linwood area. Traffic pressure in Menlyn. This is on the N1 northbound from Rigel Avenue all the way to the Proof Plus interchange due to roadworks in Irene. Also slow-moving traffic approaching the intersection of Nalmapius Drive and Main Road, while in Krugersdorp there's heavy delays. This is on the N14 westbound between Beyers Nordia and Hendrik Bergiter. Sharon Lee, traffic congested on Malibongo Drive between the N1 and Witkoppen, while in the Joburg CBD heading towards Boysens, bumper traffic M1 south from Killarney Benz to the Crown interchange. Basonia, traffic sluggish on Kliprefir Drive. This is between the N12 and Belair's Drive. In Edenvale, heading towards Bedford View, expect some delays. R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Kilulis interchange. For the latest traffic updates, you can also follow us on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Outsurance Pointsmen can't help you understand your partner's love language, but they can help you get home in time for that family dinner. Seeing them on your route just makes you feel better. The Outsurance Pointsmen have been easing traffic congestion so everyone gets where they need to be quickly and safely for the past 20 years. With Outsurance, you really always get something out. In proud partnership with 702, show them some love online using hashtag PointsmenLove. Licensed insurer and FSP.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes on 702.
My show is about your money, and it's about how people have made their money. But it's also about what happened to your money today, what happened on the JSE, what's happening overseas. All of these things, all about the way in which people make their money, spend their money, use their money, and in so many ways, use their money to make more money for them. What I absolutely love about the 702 family and 702 land is the huge warmth of people, the generosity that they show. But I also absolutely love the hustle. Anyone in business is actually trying to improve the economy. They're trying to have an impact on all of us. And there's a go-getting attitude to 702 land that you don't see in so many other places. That's what I really love about 702 land. That getting together and doing something new, and in the process, making money.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes. Weekdays from 6 to 8 p.m.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702.5. Let's focus our attention now on Parliament. Lindsay Dentlinger has been listening in to President's Question Time, questions and answers that didn't quite get underway as scheduled because there were oppositional statements made by the EFF and the MK party. I think the ATM also stood up and spoke their minds, and eventually the EFF and the MK party actually left. Let's get a summary, though, of the afternoon. Lindsay Dentlinger, EWN reporter, was there. Lindsay, a very good afternoon to you. So obviously the start somewhat delayed. Togo Didiza, speaker, appeared to be really digging her heels in on this, and it didn't appear to last particularly long, the opposition. But the people who stood up ahead of the president, what exactly were they saying? What were they asking for?
Good afternoon, John. Well, we should
Bear in mind that since that Constitutional Court ruling almost a week ago, parties such as the MKP and the EFF and the ATM wanting a motion of no confidence to be debated in the President's fitness to hold office, a very separate process from that Constitutional Court ruling. But the MK Party's Chief Whip, Mbato Mokoena Zondi, first on her feet to take umbrage with the Speaker, wanting to know what and where in the process that motion of no confidence is, and saying that the House could not be addressed by a president who is facing impeachment proceedings. The EFF agreeing with her, saying that the Constitution had to be respected, and it didn't appear that the president was respecting the Constitution, given that he is facing these impeachment proceedings. And as you've pointed out, the ATM also asking for a motion of no confidence and also insisting that the president could not be addressing the National Assembly. The Speaker shutting all of that down, and they promptly then took their belongings and left the House and were outside the dome for the entire duration of question time.
So the interesting thing then, of course, would have been the questions. I mean, there were quite a number, a range of issues canvassed. What stood out for you, Lindsay? I saw that there was some conversation about crime. I don't know if the SANDF's role came into it as well.
Yes, it did. The DA's George Mikalakis, the new parliamentary leader for that party, questioning the president about the success of Operation Prosper, which is the deployment of SANDF soldiers to help the police crack down on gangsterism in several provinces. And the president saying, while it's too early to make a judgment call, he is so far satisfied with the kind of successes that they have been able to make at this time. And he also told the House that the SANDF is under sustained pressure from him to deliver. Of course, political parties not convinced, all of them, that the SANDF is the right move to deal with gangsterism, but the president saying that this is just a temporary measure while a bigger, greater crime and community developed safety strategy is developed.
Thank you so much. Lindsay Dendlinger, EWN reporter, summary of question and answer time in Parliament today, 21 minutes past 5.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Well, from the current president to the man who held that office before President Cyril Ramaphosa took over, former President Jacob Zuma and his co-accused in the arms deal matter, the French arms company Thales, have been directed by the Pietermaritzburg High Court to stop using, quote, Stalingrad tactics to avoid starting the trial in their corruption case. Now, Judge Nkosinati Chile had been asked to look at this matter. He came back and said that even if there are future applications for appeals or any other appeals, the trial will start and the trial will continue. Does this have wider significance in a country where a number of judges, and it seems to be an increasing number, are expressing their concern about what they call lawfare, where the law is exploited to the maximum to try and avoid proceedings getting underway in earnest? That's my perspective on it. Here's somebody who knows much more about it than I do. Mbegazeli Benjamin joins us from the organization Judges Matter. Mr. Benjamin, welcome and thanks very much for your time. Obviously, our eyes were focused on the Pietermaritzburg High Court and the issue that's been before it all these many, many years. But might this decision have, if not necessarily wider application, perhaps have wider reverberation?
Good afternoon, John, and good afternoon to the listeners. Yes, it will definitely have wider reverberation, precisely because it was one of the first times that the court has emphatically said that they're drawing the line, right? There is clear Stalingrad tactics here, and there is a use of lawfare, essentially, to stop a trial from starting. And because of that, the court said it would be a grave injustice if it doesn't intervene to stop it in its tracks. And so that is significant because not only was it a long time coming, previous courts have indicated that, look, we suspect that there might be Stalingrad used here. But this time around, the High Court today said, nope, it is clear that Stalingrad is being used. and we will not have it.
So, in terms of, have I understood the implications right? That they may well embark on other legal strategies, but he's saying, well, you may well do that, but we're starting in February next year, and we're gonna roll.
Yes, he exactly said that. He said, look, there will definitely, because of past practice, there has been active litigation. Mr. Zuma is an active litigant and he has quite a significant appetite for litigation. And so he says that regardless of that, even if he does file an appeal against this judgment, the trial must proceed on the 1st of February 2027 and it must sit and run until June of 2027. So the judge made it clear in no uncertain terms that he anticipates that there will be appeals, but those appeals do not stop the trial from going ahead.
So, I mean, it's one thing to say this, but does the law in all its intricacies not give certain rights? I mean, we could look at what former President Jacob Zuma has done, and indeed many other people have walked this road, probably not for as long or with as much success, but they could turn around and say, listen, this is the law, and we are entitled in our defense to exploit any loophole or take advantage of any leeway that the law gives us. I mean, might we be in danger of erring the other way?
Well, look, the judge was very cognizant of that, and he points out to the fact that in previous cases, that has been the concern. Other judges haven't gone as far as to say that there is clearly Stalingrad because of this sensitivity to people's rights, that there might be rights that people do want to protect in the appeal process. But the judge today was very clear that it would be a failure of the court to not intervene in circumstances where it has been sufficiently established that there is a strategy being implemented. There is a Stalingrad strategy, and this is now compromising the integrity of the courts, the integrity of the administration of justice. And he says, in those situations, it would be a grave injustice if the court doesn't intervene to stop it. So the judge did try to balance the two rights of not only the individual concerned, but also of the broader system of justice, which people will lose confidence in if the court does not intervene to stop Stalingrad.
Let's look at the matter that's been before the courts. I'm going to have to go online and figure out when this first came to court. But I mean, we're talking many, many years. What are the difficulties for the prosecution of a matter where I don't suppose evidence grows stale, but possibly trails grow cold and witnesses grow forgetful?
Absolutely. I think that is the biggest risk in this case, is that the witnesses' memories would have faded, others would have passed on. I think one of the key witnesses, who was a forensic accountant who analyzed the transactions that showed a pattern of corruption in this case, I think he has passed on already. And so that evidence is already at risk. There may be other evidence that would have also been compromised over the 20-year period in which this case has been running. So there is a risk that the prosecution might fail simply because of the delays.
Thank you so much. Mbegazeli Benjamin, Judges Matter. I'm very interested to know, by the way, whether this will actually lead other judges to say, okay, well, yeah, we're going to take a similar approach. I realize the law works in, quite complex ways, and there's precedent and all those things that perhaps need to be set down in a very, very specific way. But perhaps people are taking note of what Justice Chile said today and saying, yeah, I think in my court we're going to tighten things up as well. I'm just looking first. Pleading of not guilty from Jacob Zuma, former President Jacob Zuma, when charges were struck off the roll in 2006. The first indictment was in 2005, and on it goes. I can't sum it all up because I don't have time, but it's been going for a while, as I said. 28 minutes past 5.
EWN Business.
Stephen Curtis, a very good afternoon to you.
Afternoon. 2005, the Durban Magistrates Court, his first appearance.
Yes.
And I was there.
Okay.
So it suddenly makes me feel very old. But yes, 21 years ago is when it actually all started, the case, and it came out of the Sheikh trial, obviously. But John, I can't quite believe how much has changed and how much hasn't in all of that time. Really quite incredible.
One of those extraordinary mixes. The more it changes, the more it stays the same, and any cliche you like. But yes, lots of changes and some things not at all.
Indeed. Well, talking of which, the JSE All Share is flat, ending the day down 0.02, 117,362 points. Brent crude is slightly lower, not much in it really, but I think it's given markets a bit of room. Financials are up 1.7, industrials down 0.08, resources down 1.44% on the day. Karoo, the car technology company, they're down nearly 10%, John, despite not a bad update. They said their CarTrack subscribers are up 16% in the fourth quarter to the end of February. They've got over 2 million customers in South Africa now. Their subscription revenue was up 18%, but still I think the market may be expecting a little bit more, and maybe that's the reason for that. Platinum miners are lower because platinum prices are much lower today, so Implats is down 4.6. Thungela, one of the beneficiaries from higher oil prices, they're down 3.75%, but other platinum miners like Valterra, Sabania, all down by around 3%. Naspers down nearly 3%, and a process as well after an update yesterday from Tencent in Hong Kong. Pick n Pay, strong day for them, up 8% on the day. A couple of other retailers doing nicely, so Truworths are up 3.18 as well on the day, and the Equitas Property Fund, they're up nearly 2.5% on the day. After reporting, their distribution per share was up 5%. They say their property valuations have increased in South Africa because of strong market fundamentals. And the platinum and chrome producer Tharisa reporting earnings per share likely to be up by over 500% for the 6 months to the end of March. Obviously, we're seeing higher platinum prices, one of the reasons for that. In the US, so lots of people watching the big summit between Trump and Xi. The CEO of NVIDIA is there. Their share prices are up very strongly on the day. The Dow Jones is up 0.73%. The Nasdaq's up 0.75%. The S&P 500 is up 0.72%. The gold price, $4,681.74. Platinum, $2,071.25. Brent crude, $105.30. And the rand to the dollar, 16.46 to the euro, 19.22 to the British pound, 22.19. On the Money Show tonight, we'll talk to the AA. They got a cease and desist letter from Toyota yesterday telling them not to continue talking about the Starlet car, which NCAP gave a 0-star rating to. We've asked for Toyota. I'm not expecting them to come on at this point, perhaps tomorrow. But we'll speak to the CEO at the AA. He also says that some companies basically skip out certain safety aspects for cars that are sold. Guess where? In Africa. We'll talk about Kevin Welch taking over as chair of the US Federal Reserve, and we'll look at the World Happiness Report. All of that to come. Stephen Crotus, EWN Business.
The regular winners of the World Happiness Report, if I recall, is Finland, actually. I don't know if they've won it again, but they are definitely World Happiness champions in years past. Looking forward to that and everything else on The Money Show between 6 and 8. Time now, though, to catch up with the very latest eyewitness news. Here's Mbali Dlamini once again.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. The ANC is confident that any attempt to impeach President Cyril Ramaphosa will fail. Its top officials briefed the party's Parliamentary Caucus on the outcomes of a special NEC meeting today on the Phala Court judgment. The party says it expects support from its own MPs and GNU partners when a vote is being held. The briefing comes after parties in Parliament agreed on the makeup of the Section 89 inquiry that will investigate the president. Babalondenze reports.
Parliament has approved the formation of a 31-member impeachment committee, with the ANC to get the most representation with 9 members and the DA 5. ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula at the caucus meeting has communicated the party's position to the party's 159 MPs and to get the process started. Mbalula said they talk to GNU members all the time, and removing President Cyril Ramaphosa won't come easy.
So that if somebody comes with a motion of no confidence, you need 50% plus 1. And then when you want to remove the president, you need 2/3 majority. Nobody will remove the president here without us if they come even with impeachment. So they put it as though it's something easy.
The party's national officials will hold another press briefing at Luthuli House in Johannesburg tomorrow, where the special NEC's decision will be communicated. Babalondenze, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
The Gauteng Health Department is warning residents about the rising use of illegal injectable substances for sexual and body enhancements. The warning follows 2 cases in Ekurhuleni where patients suffered severe complications, including organ failure after allegedly using unregulated products obtained through informal channels. Health officials say the substances are often associated with so-called BBL procedures and other enhancement practices. Mongezi Gogo reports.
The department says preliminary investigations indicate that some individuals are being provided with equipment to self-inject despite the products not being approved for human use and their composition remaining unknown. It also warns against misleading claims that pain, swelling or a burning sensation after injection means the product is working, saying these symptoms are often indicators of serious underlying complications. Gauteng Health spokesperson Steve Mabona.
The department is working in collaboration with relevant regulatory and law enforcement authorities to trace the source.
Residents are urged to only use medication prescribed and administered by qualified healthcare professionals and to report the sale of unregistered medicines. Mongezi Gogo, Eyewitness News.
And the United Nations is criticizing Afghanistan over the detention of journalists. The 3 journalists were arrested last week by Taliban security agencies for unknown charges. According to reports, their case is still under investigation. Several advocacy groups have called on the Taliban authorities to release the detained journalists and ensure that press freedoms prevail in the country. In a statement, the UN's Afghanistan mission, UNAMA, says it's seeking clarification of the legal basis and any charges against the detained media practitioners. In your weather, a partly cloudy Friday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Lows of between 7 and 9 degrees and highs of between 23 and 25.
In Boksburg, heading towards Benoni, there's an accident seen on the N12 eastbound just before Atlas Road, and this is already causing more than an hour delay all the way from Jed Park Road. There's also bumper-to-bumper traffic in Krugersdorp. This is on the N14 westbound between Beyers Nodia and Hendrik Potgieter, and in Sharon Lee, traffic congested on Malibongo Drive between the N1 and Witkoppen.
A top story in EWN, the ANC is confident that any attempt to impeach President Cyril Ramaphosa will fail.
The Clement Manyatela Show on 702.
The Clement Manyatela Show is about everything. It's about current affairs, family matters, the work environment, your health and wellness, relationship and sex issues that couples face. It's about learning, helping each other, healing, teaching. It's about life in essence. What I like about the 702 family and 702 land is that we are quite intentional about doing life together. We're always pulling through for each other, learning from each other, always teaching each other. We're not scared to disagree, but also we're brave enough to be vulnerable with each other. We just care about each other, and I think that is priceless.
The Clement Manyatela Show, weekdays from 9 to 12 p.m.
The pain of losing a loved one is never easy. It will leave you feeling overwhelmed. At Clientele, we understand that burying loved ones with dignity truly matters. Our funeral plans pay out cash within just 24 hours, and you receive 200 Rand airtime when you claim to make those important calls. Plus, we cover up to 13 people on one plan. SMS funeral to 31586. That's 31586. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Whenever she fell or got hurt, a kiss always took the pain away. Honey and hugs helped at first when the coughing started. It's just a cold. Keep her warm and she'll be fine, we thought. I wish I could kiss RSV away too.
Respiratory syncytial virus is a contagious virus that can lead to serious illnesses, including lung infections. Fortunately, protection for infants against RSV is now available in South Africa. Ask your healthcare provider about keeping your baby protected during their first RSV season.
Gauteng is currently experiencing high water consumption. To avoid water interruptions, residents are urged to use water sparingly to allow equitable supply. Act now, save water. Every drop counts. This message is brought to you by the Department of Water and Sanitation, Rand Water, Gauteng Provincial Government, City of Johannesburg, City of Tshwane, and City of Ekurhuleni.
For over 4 decades, Exaro and Eskom have powered South Africa together. Now, that partnership grows stronger. On Friday, catch the Clement Manyatela Show live from the official opening of Exaro's Mine 1 expansion project in Kriel, Mpumalanga. The milestone marks a major investment into a long-term coal supply to Eskom's Madla power station and continued energy generation for millions of people. Don't miss the conversations shaping SA's energy future. That's the Clement Manyatela Show, live from Madla Coal Mine on Friday with Exaro, powering progress across Africa and beyond on 702.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Good afternoon, Dada John and team. I want to remain anonymous because otherwise I'll get in trouble for this. So there's two boys' schools there in Houghton. They are street away from each other. One is private, one is public. And then the private school likes to think that they're in a rivalry, especially when it comes to rugby, with the public school. I'm not sure when last the private school beat the public school. And I'm actually not sure if the public school is aware that they're in a rivalry with the private school. I feel like the private school is in this rivalry all by itself. Anyway, have a good day, Dada John. Bye.
John here from Randburg. I went to Marefluun in Alberton, and in my time our biggest rivals were Monas, Monument in Krugersdorp, and Waterkloof. And in 2004 we won the Super Rugby, and that was amazing. Cheers.
Memories of great school rivalry. Let me share this one with you. I'm laughing at the private school, public school rivalry, that people are kind of unaware that there was a rivalry. I remember that somebody wrote something talking about the rivalry between Serena Williams and Maria Sharapova, and somebody said, rivalry, comparing the productiveness in terms of Grand Slam wins and wins in general of the two players. Mike shares this. John, as a product of the 80s, I attended Florida Park High School. Our immediate rival was Florida Hoër School. They took no prisoners. When it came to playing rugby against us, we would get donnered. Mike, thank you for that. Often those memories of rivalry are also recollections of rather painful, but ultimately fun experiences, hey? Big part of my school life, poor as we were at school. At sport, I beg your pardon. 19 minutes to 6.
EWN Sport.
Well, Sundown's rivalry focus switches, hey? CAF Champions League final on Sunday. Huge game.
Absolutely, John, and they'll take on AS FAR in that first leg, with the team expected to relinquish their Bidway Premiership title to Orlando Pirates as the 8-year league reign comes to an end. Nuno Santos says winning a second continental title will ease the pain of a disappointing PSL season.
Every game it's difficult. Not only this one, but the previous ones in the Champions League were all difficult. No game is easy for us. We know the responsibility that we have. I think now we move our focus for what's coming, so we cannot do anything to change whatever happened before. So total focus on the first leg of the Champions League.
Mikel Arteta says Arsenal have enjoyed life at the top of the Premier League standings as pressure shifts to the chasing pack with 2 games of the season left. For the past 2 campaigns, the Gunners have been hunters in the title battles, but this season the roles have reversed and they currently sit 2 points clear of second-place Manchester City.
The last few years they've been different. We think we've been in both positions is what it is. I think the fact that we've been at the top for a long time shows the level of consistency and how well the team is done to stay there in this league is where we are now. More than ever, obviously, we want to finish in that position, and that's what we're trying to do.
The Lions are in the pound seats to secure a top 8 spot that would see them qualify for the playoffs for the first time ever in the United Rugby Championship. They take on Munster in the final league round game, knowing victory will secure them a top 4 finish. And Frankie Horn has discussed what he expects against the Irish opponents.
Our goal has always been to make the top 8, and if we win the weekend, we do that. It's basically as straightforward as that. We have to play better rugby. Leinster put us under pressure. We already have the plans on how and what we want to do against Munster, and if something similar happens, how we would get out of that and apply our game model onto them. Munster is also going to be desperate. They also need a win. So it's going to be a massive game this weekend. We're under no illusion regarding that.
Yannick Sinner has reached the semi-finals of the Italian Open after seeing off Andrei Rublev 6-2 and 6-4. He's now set a new record for consecutive wins in Masters 1000 tournaments with 32. In the women's draw, Iga Swiatek will bid to reach her first final of the year when she faces Elina Svitolina. Coco Gauff awaits the winner after her straight sets win over Serena Christie. In an early update from round 1 at the US PGA Championship, Stefan Yacha is in a share of the lead alongside Bud Cully on 4 under. Aldrich Potgieter does the highest placed South African on 2 under, while Garrick Hugo was penalised 2 strokes for being late for his 7:18 tee time. And an Australian challenger will compete in the America's Cup in 2027, almost 3 decades since their last participation in the event. Next year's America's Cup will take place in Naples, and the country will be one of 6 teams competing for the chance to face New Zealand for the trophy. Tholakele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now. And you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Problems are in Boksburg. Let's get the latest from Karabo.
Yeah, that's if you're heading towards the Benoni area. There's an accident scene in Boksburg, N12 eastbound, just before Atlas Road, causing more than an hour delay all the way from Jet Park. Edenville also expect some delays traveling towards Bedford View. That's the R24 westbound between Edenville Road and the Giluli's interchange, while in Krugersdorp, traffic remains heavily backed up on the N14 westbound between Beyers Nordia and Hendrik Potgieter. Sharon Lee, traffic congested on Malibonga Drive between the N1 and Witkoppen, while if you're heading towards Boysens, this is traveling through the Joburg CBD bumper-to-bumper traffic, M1 southbound from Killarney Benz to the Crown interchange. In Basonia, traffic remains sluggish on Kliprefir Drive between the N12 and Belair's Drive, while in Tshwane Menlyn there's traffic pressure on the N1 northbound. This is from Rigel Avenue all the way to the Proof Plus interchange due to roadworks in the Linwood area. And finally, Irene, slow-moving traffic approaching the intersection of Nelmay Pierce Drive and Main Road. For the latest traffic update, you can also follow us on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Things people stress about in traffic. Number 52.
Did the kids actually do their holiday homework, or are they going to make it my homework?
Oh, the drama. Well, with the Outsurance pointsman on your route, at least the traffic is one less thing to stress about. The Outsurance pointsmen have been easing traffic congestion so we all get to where we need to be quickly and safely for the past 20 years. With Outsurance, you really always get something out. In partnership with 702, Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
The Aubrey Masangu Show on 702.
I cover on my show issues of advisory, whether it is legal matters, whether it is financial matters. I cover day-to-day issues as far as current affairs are concerned. I cover the politics of the day and how we as South Africans are interpreting them. My listener is a curious 702 lander. They want to know what are the backstories, the stories behind what we are hearing on the airwaves. They want to understand what drives the different issues that have us talking. What I love about the 702 family and 702 Land is the fact that we have 702 landers who are responsive, who are present, who care about their communities and who want to know how they can be a part of the process of making our areas better, but also our country better. And that for me is a great privilege. I am totally indebted to the providence out there to be talking to these people on a daily basis.
The Aubrey Masangu Show, weekdays from 8 to midnight. John is on X.
At John Perlman.
702 Drive 1326. So, music. Earlier in the show, we set you a little theme for the music that we were going to play today. So many prominent and powerful people in court. We thought your best song that deals with somebody being on the wrong side of the law. So we've got some good suggestions from you already. We're hoping to get some more. We set things up and started it off with this classic. Bob Marley did it in 73. A year later, Eric Clapton delivered this version.
I shot the sheriff, but I did not shoot the deputy. I shot the sheriff, but I didn't shoot the deputy. All around in my hometown,
I shot the sheriff. It was in self-defense and I didn't shoot the deputy. So that sets out one particular scenario. Your story, please, about people who find themselves clashing with the law. 072 702 1702.
702 Afternoons with Relebogile Mabodja.
702 Afternoons is about all things in life, from music to inspiration. We get an opportunity to explore science, mental health, food. I almost feel like there's nothing we don't do on my show. One of the things I absolutely love about 702 Land and the 702 family is that we are so sharing. We share tears, laughs, smiles. We share in the amazing times and celebrate together as well. We have a range of topics, but when it comes to what we do cover on the show, absolutely everything. My listener is somebody who wants to grow, evolve, develop. They're empathetic, they are loving, they are so special that even when they don't have, they come through and share, and more importantly, they know how to walk the talk.
702 Afternoons with Relebogile Mabodja. Weekdays from 1 to 3 p.m.
Joburg is more than just a city. It's a home for dream creators, operators and change makers. In celebration of this, 702 has partnered with Jozi My Jozi to unite the whole of Joburg in the 702 Jozi My Jozi Walk the Talk. On Sunday, 26 July, we're going on a walk through the iconic Joburg CBD. We want you to join us and be a part of something special. Put it in your diary now and then enter on primemediaplus.com. Get ready for the 702 Jozi My Jozi Walk the Talk, hosted by the City of Johannesburg. Walk with the people, for our Jozi. Babize Bonke. More on primemediaplus.com.
Oh, Shane, do you have a sore throat? The Andalex range of lozenges offers two options. At the first signs of an irritated, scratchy throat, use Andalex lozenges for dual action, soothing relief. But for a painful, inflamed throat, use Andalex C lozenges for triple action, pain relief. Andalex, SA's #1 choice for a sore mouth and throat. Andalex lozenges are available at all leading pharmacies and supermarkets.
Just Andalex it.
Not every change feels like a choice. Some arrive as disruption. Shift Happens with Richard Sutton is a podcast about those moments where life moves first and you have to catch up. And now you can catch it all. Shift Happens with Richard Sutton. Coming soon on primemediaplus.com, the Prime Media Plus app, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Powered by First Light. Therapeutics for the modern mind.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Good afternoon, Tati John. This is Yolande from Centurion. Yes, there is a song that I would relate to being on the wrong side of the law. It's by Lucky Dube, Prisoner. The late, legendary Lucky Dube, Prisoner. That's the song that I would say. Yeah.
Good afternoon, John. Good afternoon, 702. This is David again, driving through Midrand to Pretoria. How about the song Hazard by Richard Marx? It's a classic as well. All court related and trial related. Take care. Enjoy the evening.
My mother came to Hazard when I was just 7. Even then, the folks in town said the prejudice dies. That boy's not right. 3 years ago when I came to know Mary, first time that someone looked beyond the rumors and the lies and saw the man inside. We used to walk down by the river. She loved to watch the sun go down. We used to walk along the river and dream our way out of this town.
Richard Marx, Hazard from 1991. Robbie says, how about Pretty Boy Floyd? Written and sung by Woody Guthrie. It's about a Robin Hood-style bandit who robbed the rich to Help the Poor. It was recorded by several Guthrie fans over the years. Pretty Boy Floyd, I've definitely heard it. I'm not sure I've heard the original Woody Guthrie version. This one from Tsele, one of the songs that features crime, is by the Braids, Bohemian Rhapsody, originally done, of course, by Queen. That was their song. This is from Tumi Sang, who says, the song where a group of people find themselves on the wrong side of the law is a track called Accused by the Kwaito group Alaska. Tumi sending us that from Pretoria.
I'm Tate John. My all-time favorite is Bohemian Rhapsody. Mama just killed a man. Pull my trigger, now he's dead. Send shivers down my spine. Yeah, but anyway, that is it.
Afternoon, John. It's Paul speaking. I think a law-related song, and I hope it's how it plays out in the country with all the crooks that we appear to have here, is The Clash. I Fought the Law. I think that would be a great one to happen in this country. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, 1977, first year out of school for me. Boy, I enjoyed that. The Clash, I Fought the Law, and the law won. So that's the result of that particular clash with the authorities. A couple of you with some more suggestions. Let's hear those.
Oh, John, even better. Traffic cop, traffic cop. Aksikinza, man. Aksikinza, man. This is a song by Brazo Peace. The name of the track is called Traffic Cop. It was released around 90s there. Beautiful song as well. Mashaya again in Timbisa.
Hi, John. It's Tembi from Rivonia. My favorite song for today's theme is Rihanna, Men Down.
I didn't mean to end this life. I know it was alright. I can't even sleep and I can't get it out my mind. I need to get out of sight, but I end up behind bars. What started out as a simple altercation turns into a real sticky situation. Me just thinking on the time that I'm facing makes me wanna cry. 'Cause I didn't mean to hurt him. Could have been somebody's son. And I took his heart when I pulled out that gun. Rum pa pa bum, rum pa pa bum, rum pa pa bum.
Rihanna, Man Down. That came out in 2010. Songs about people on the wrong side of the law, at the very least, clashing with the law. Marlon goes back into 70s rock. Don't Take Me Alive by Steely Dan. Colofelo also asked for this Rihanna song that we're just listening to now. Chris highlights Ma Baker. I'm trying to remember who sang that. And GM, Jay-Z featuring Beyonce, Bonnie and Clyde. Lots and lots of songs. Actually, it's quite a fruitful little theme we've come up with. This one from Garth, again going back into, I think, the 80s. Now, a great song about being arrested is by Madness. It's called Shut Up. The song tells the story of a guy being interrogated by police after a burglary. Thanks for that, Garth. Let's hear a last couple of voice notes. No? Okay. Thought we had a couple more. Yeah. Let's just see what other song suggestions come to mind. I'm not sure about this one. Zeno says, for some strange reason, Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire song came to mind just now as one of those songs. I don't remember. Well, that song just covers virtually everything. So that's, would have been part of the song, I would think. Chachelo comes up with Testify by Common. Let's finish up. Brothers of Peace by... Brothers of Peace with Traffic Cop.
Jong, dit leek na gesteelde kar, jong. Uningutjela kusikinza lento. Wag gebit, jong. Meneer van der Merwe, is MPN 9042 rooi dit al aan jou computer? Traffic cop. Traffic cop, cop. Traffic cop. Traffic cop, cop. Ibize moyen. Ibize moyen, man. Ibize moyen. Ibize moyen, man. Ibize moyen. Ibize moyen, man.
This has been 702 Drive with me, John Perlman, and the team. Have yourselves a great Thursday and a wonderful evening. Good night.
And now, The Money Show.
With Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
And DSTV channel 856.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by Absa Business Banking, featuring the Agri Trends 2026 Autumn Edition. In agriculture, smart moves need smart insights. We get it. Good evening. On your Money Show tonight, Toyota tries to shut up the AA over the 0-star NCAP rating for the Starlet, while the AA says some companies are skipping safety features only for cars sold in Africa. Kevin Walsh prepares to start his term as chair of the US Federal Reserve with inflation creeping up and Trump pushing for lower interest rates. How the Kell Group